Hello, Night Nation. Proud to let you know that the Sons of UCF podcast is presented by the law firm of Gordon & Partners. Since 1993, Gordon & Partners have been dedicated to the pursuit of justice for those who have been wrongfully injured at no fault of their own. It's important that you get legal advice from somebody you trust. So contact UCF alum Michael Hoffman directly if you have any legal needs or questions. Visit their website at www.fortheinjured.com or text 407-913-5350 to speak directly to Michael. Don't trust just anybody. Trust the best. And trust a fellow knight. Gordon & Partners. For the injured.
This is the Sons of UCF, the number one place for UCF sports. With your distinguished hosts, Adam.
Let's all get together and see who can solve the Wordle the fastest.
And Mike.
You know, last year I think I said about 30 people in the UCF Sons of UCF group. Let's try to double that. Let's try to get 50.
Now, here are the guys.
All right. Episode number 184 of the Sons of UCF. My name is Adam, and as always, I've got my friend and yours, Mr. UCF Mike. Mike is back for yet another week. Mike, my friend, how are you?
Doing great, man. Doing great. It's the off season, but we find ways to keep everybody entertained, right?
We're going to find out. We're going to find out if we've got you entertained or not, because there's not a whole heck of a lot going on here. So this particular episode, we've got a couple of things. We'll go through some quick news and notes. You know, we'll tell you what's going on. Pretty cool event over the past week, so we'll spend some time talking through that. Commitment and decommitment, uncommitment, recommitment. We all got commitment issues. We'll talk through that stuff as well. We're gonna play a little game. We're gonna make Mike and I rich, and we'll see what happens with that. So stay tuned there. A nice throwback conversation with one of the pillars of the UCF football program, and then Cow of the Week, Mike. That is all in store for you today. That is all courtesy of our good friends at Gordon & Partners, Mike. You heard the ad off the top of the show. Make sure that you reach out to Michael Hoffman if you have any legal needs. Gordon & Partners for the injured, Mike. And UCF fans, for a long time thought maybe something was wrong with this guy because he wasn't around as much. And we all got a nice surprise, Mike. So the Built by UCF Night event, a Dreamfield and Mission Control, collaboration, although they're the same thing, went off this past week, Mike. Now, we'll let the audience in a little secret right off the top here. Dante was scheduled to appear. Neither one of us actually thought he'd show up. So let's just be perfectly honest. I did not think he'd make it. You did not think he'd make it too, correct?
No, I didn't think he was going to go. And I thought if he did go, he'd make an appearance and he'd be out of there in an hour.
Well, it turns out we both took an L on this one, Mike, because Dante was not only there, but he was there for, I believe, pretty much the duration. Had a bunch of interviews, a bunch of conversations. Our man on the scene, Trace Trelko, was able to get some good conversations. If you want to see all of those in their entirety, go to our YouTube channel at Sons of UCF. You'll see Dante, you'll see Blake, you'll see Traquan. We got some conversations with Denise Anderson, and we have exclusive video of some of the stuff that happened in the program. So go to the YouTube channel, Sons of UCF, for all that stuff, Mike. But Dante was there. Was it good to see him? What was your thought? I mean, I know you saw that video pop up, and there's Dante's smiling face back on campus again. What were your thoughts? What did you think when you saw him back there at UCF?
Yeah, it's great to see Dante back. I mean, he's one of the legends. A lot of people refer to him as the greatest player to ever play at UCF. We don't get to hear from him much. I think the last time I saw him on the field was they were celebrating him, Kevin Smith, Joe Burnett, and I think Wayne Dench. They put their names up on in front of the sections of the stadium. The last time I saw him, that had to go back 2007, 8, 9. One of the first couple of years of the stadium opening, that happened. But it's been a while since we've seen Dante. We heard from Dante, so great to see him back out there on campus again. He says he's been around. He just tries to stay low key. So hopefully we get to see a lot more of him in the next few years.
Yeah, he was obviously very effusive in his praise of where UCF is at. I thought it was interesting, Mike. I mean, it's been a long time, I think, since we've seen him interviewed in any sort of setting. And you know, I went back and watched some old clips of old interviews. There's not a lot laying around, but I was really, not surprised, I guess, but just taken back. He was super humble. I mean, a few times Trace actually pressed him with the greatest quarterback in UCF history, and he made a face, and kind of looked at him like, I don't want to answer that. And his answer was whoever the starting quarterback is this year, which is a great question, by the way, because we don't know who that is. So Mikey Keene, congratulations. You're the greatest quarterback in UCF history. I was just taken back by how like humble he was. You know what I mean? Like he's certainly, I think he understands he's got GOAT status wherever he goes on that campus. And it was just funny to see kind of how humble he was. He didn't want really a whole lot of credit. He, kept talking about his teammates. That was interesting to see, especially because I haven't seen him in front of a microphone in such a long time.
Yeah, everybody talks about how Dante, he didn't have much to work with compared to Mackenzie Milton and all the guys recently, but he had a lot of very good players by his side, especially the receiving core he had, Sia Burley, Charles Lee, Mark Nonsant, that whole crew. He had some very good running backs. And the defenses were getting better, too, under Gene Chizik back then, too. So he played with some good teams. It's just, we didn't have the depth back then to last and beat these P5 teams back then. But it's not like he was playing with a bunch of slouches on his team either. He had some guys, and he likes to give those guys credit. He's always been a humble guy. So he wasn't going to come out and just say, yeah, I'm the best ever, even though he may believe that.
Yeah, he downplayed that. It was funny. Blake and I think KZ both said that Daunte was indeed the greatest quarterback. There was a good viral moment, Mike. They all stand up and the crowd claps and they get together for a photo op. Those photos were circulating. First time the three of them have ever been together in the same room, ever been together in the same photograph, Mike. That was pretty cool to see. Three of the bigger name quarterbacks together. Not something we had seen before. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome. And guys like Milton appreciate the history of UCF. He knows. A lot of our fans may not know this, but there was football before 2017 here at UCF, and a lot of very good players have been through here. Dante is one of the pioneers. He's the guy that gets credit for putting UCF football on the map, and it's great that Milton and these younger guys appreciate that, and we're able to put this whole thing together and to finally get to meet Dante. I'm sure it was a great experience for everybody.
We have time to debate this. We're going to roll out a new feature here at the Sons of UCF. We're not going to spoil it now, but we're going to start compiling our own list. We got some lists we're going to make. We're going to spend some time over the summer just keeping conversations moving. So we've got the Mount Rushmore with a twist. So coming soon on that, Mike. So I don't want to spoil all that, but so take on field. I guess you can't take on field performance out of the equation, but there's best player, there's greatest player, there's all that. Is Dante the most important player in UCF history? And not just because of what he did on the field, but what he meant. I mean, we can argue maybe somebody had more talent than somebody else, whatever, more results, more statistics, whatever. But is Dante the most important player in UCF history?
He very may well be, especially for the time that he was at the program. Remember, we're transitioning into Division I football, FCS now as it's called. That was a huge leap for the program back then. And a lot of people didn't know who UCF was. And to go into Nebraska at the time, which is the reigning national champions, and to have them scared there for a half, that was a big deal back then. To go on to the NFL, be a first-round draft pick, the first time that's ever happened here at UCF, he accomplished a lot here in his time. And yeah, he may very well be the most important. I mean, he didn't win the big one. That's always been my one knock on him when you compare him to Milton. That's why I give the edge to Milton as the best player. But as most important, I think I might have to agree with that one.
Yeah, it's a different list. We're not talking specifically just on-field play. We're talking about importance of the program. Who's in the team picture? Who else is even involved in that conversation? I mean, there's probably somebody we're forgetting back in the FCS days. But I mean, I think hands down, I think that's why everyone sort of gravitates to Dante, because you recognize not only was he just a freak of a talent, and not only was he just a fantastic player on the field, what he meant to the school, what he continued to mean for the school after he left. Mike, I mean, for all those years, it was when we talked UCF and it was NFL, it was Dante Culpepper. Yeah, it was Dante Culpepper. I mean, that was really our claim to fame as you thought about sort of any longevity with a football team, and it wasn't for a while where you start seeing more guys like Asante get in the league and make some noise, and Brandon Marshall get in, make some noise, and then Mac Prater make some noise, and all of a sudden it became more of a snowball effect. But Daunte had to carry that mantle for such a long time, and it's funny. I'm curious how young fans think about Daunte today. I mean, I think everyone knows his name, right? They know, oh, Daunte was a quarterback here, first round pick. He threw a lot of bombs to Randy Moss in the NFL. I think everyone knows that, but it's so. I don't know how to think about this because it feels like in some respects Dante's kind of been lost in terms of some of his importance of UCF for all the younger generation. Some of that by his own fault, right? Because he's not as approachable. It sounds like he's around, but just isn't as front facing maybe. But it's also, I mean, do you lay some of this on UCF? I mean, there's really not a lot of, I guess the sad or the funny or whatever word you want to use. It took a third-party agency in this case, Dreamfield and Mission Control, to get all of UCF's greats back together. I know they do the golf tournament. I know Carlos McCants has come in and done a fantastic job trying to get that thing back together. But you don't walk campus and see any signs of Daunte. You don't walk around and see any signs of some of those guys. I mean, if you're in the stadium, you might see their name hanging up. But I guess, do you think the younger generation is losing sight of who Daunte was? And is that UCF's fault ultimately, if you think about it?
They have the banners that you mentioned hanging inside the stadium of all the Hall of Fame players. We got to get an actual Hall of Fame, a building where people can go in and see the plaques, or if you want to make busts for these guys, and have something where people can go in and learn about the history of UCF, not just football, but all UCF sports. I think that would be awesome if that could get done. Because a lot of the younger folks, they don't know, and probably a lot of them don't care. Because if you told us when we were a freshman in '98, about Darren Slack and Darren Hinshaw back then, 10 years before us, we were like, who cares, right?
Right.
You don't really think about that stuff. But it is important. And Daunte, going back to how important he was, we talk about recruits today, 5-star recruits, 4-star recruits. Daunte would have definitely been a 5-star recruit. They didn't have the star system back then, but he definitely would have been. And for him to come to UCF while we were still not even a Division I program was incredible. And then for him to stay his senior year, where he could have easily gone to the NFL after his junior year, stayed at UCF and play all 4 years, that was another big move for him. So that kind of solidifies his spot as one of the most important players.
That's a really good point, because I don't know how many people know Daunte's story and know everything sort of about him, but I think there's some academic stuff coming out of high school, and things happen. He was trying to go here and there, whatever, ends up committing to UCF. And even though, UCF wasn't well known back then, Gene Mcdowell had the FSU ties. I think that helped. And other schools came at him late and wanted to get him to maybe think about going someplace else. He stayed at UCF. And then to your point, he could have left as a junior, probably been a really high draft pick just like he was as a senior. Obviously back then, there were no NIL stuff. All that stuff doesn't exist, right? So you take a knee injury as a senior, particularly, back then when you're Daunte and you're at a small school and very few people maybe know who you are. I mean, that's a huge risk. I mean, today, at least your games are televised everywhere. So if somebody gets injured, there's probably a bunch of tape. But back then, how many scouts were flying down to Orlando to watch UCF? How many games were on TV to even see? How much game film was available? So he really put himself in a pickle, for lack of better words, in terms of what he would have done. And he stayed loyal to UCF through and through. And I guess it's one of those we could always go back and go, what would have happened if? Like, what would have happened if Daunte left after junior season? Maybe we're 5-5 or 5-6, whatever. We're 6-5, whatever our record is that 98 year. And maybe things turn out way differently, right? I mean, or what if he never even comes to UCF? What at the very last minute he flips and does something like we see kids today? I mean, it's crazy to think through some of those small decisions, how much they impact where we all sit today. Because if some of those things change, we're doing, the Sons of FAU right now or something, right? Because I don't even know where UCF's program is at from that standpoint. I guess that's why Daunte's importance, really doesn't need to be said, but in some respects it does need to be said.
Yeah, and he could have transferred. I mean, I know the transfer portal is not the way it is today. He would have had to sit out a year, but I'm sure plenty of teams would have loved to have him transfer in, and he could have played a year here and gone off somewhere else, gone to Florida State somewhere, and been a huge star there. But he decided to stay here, and we're all very thankful for it. I'm glad we've actually got 1 year to watch him in person, because our freshman year was his senior year. So I remember getting on campus for orientation and the people telling us, hey, we have a guy that's going to be up for the Heisman this year. Yeah, and there was a lot of hype going into that season. And then we go into, what was it, Burger King? And there's him standing he's on the cups and he's on the menus and all the stuff, him standing inside the Citrus Bowl like a giant. And it was just really cool to be part of that era. And to watch him play, it was awesome.
Yeah, they had those Dante's Worlds posters, I believe, if I remember that correctly. And I have this right. I think he drove, and this is 1998, of course. Mike and I are old men. He drove like a red, Lincoln Navigator or Ford Expedition, if I have that right in my head. And I always remember like people being like, "Oh, I saw Dante's car on campus. I saw, Dante was here." It was always like, where was Dante? Because he was it, Mike. He was the star times 100 on campus back in those days, because A, he was so freaking good, but B, you knew that he was going to go on to do something better. It was such a cool time to be a part of it when you sit back and you think about it. And that's where, to your point, we've got to find a way. I think UCF has to continue. And I guess it's a function of turnover, right? I mean, we've had how many ADs since Dante left? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe athletic directors since Dante left. Some of that history just kind of moves and churns and new people come in, but I think I'd love to see as we transition to the Big 12 as part of our, kind of our ascension to the future. I'd love to see us find ways to reach back to the past and honor some of these folks, like you said, all sports, right? Really, who have helped pave the way for UCF to get here. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how you do that. As you build a building, do you start naming facilities after people? I don't know how you do that, but it would be cool to see. And Dante made it. It's funny. I think it was Trace actually who asked him a question about like, hey, are we going to see you in East Orlando more often? And Dante looked at Trace like, boy, we're about to go outside, because he was like, I've been here. What are you talking about? I've been around. I just don't come to the sideline. Just because you don't see me doesn't mean I'm not here. But then he kind of softened. He was like, but I will be around more this year. So I'm wondering if this, hopefully that momentum starts now, where we start figuring out ways to honor guys. And if we're going to do that, in my book, Dante's, number one on the list of ways we have to, or people we have to try to find a way to honor. Because I mean, his shoulders carried UCF for a long time. While you can debate best player, you can debate most talented player, you can debate best statistical player. I don't think you can debate most important player in UCF football history.
No, he's got his own era. If you break down the history of UCF, maybe you got the Mcdowell era. Dante overlaps on that, but it's him leading into the Kruczek, and then you got the O'Leary era, and then I'd say the Milton era. And Dante is that big of a name, and he's right up on the Mount Rushmore, not just football players, but anybody in UCF athletics history. He's right up there on the top.
Yeah, right after Dante, what do you go to the O'Leary era? I guess he was really the biggest name we had for a long time there until Kevin Smith takes over. And then you sort of break in, to those middle years of the Bortle years too. But overall, Mike, good to see a bunch of guys back. I mean, both the Griffins were there. AK Taj McGowan was there. Tony Garrard was there. Aaron Evans was there. You saw a bunch of guys back. Joey Grant and Blake Bortles, obviously, we talked about. It was cool to see a bunch of those guys back, man. It sounds like this is going to be an annual thing, and good on Mission Control and Dreamfield for finding ways to put this on. And, proceeds going to both NIL stuff for Dreamfield and for the Otis Anderson Jr. Foundation. So good causes all around, Mike. So you and I did not go to this year's, transparently. Are we booking next year? Are you now that you saw what it is, are you booking next year? Is UCF Mike making an appearance? Are you clearing the calendar already?
It was a very cool event. It's very possible. The great thing is we have so many great players that have been through here. We had some of the best, but you could still do a list of awesome guys that were not even there. And you can have one with 24K, Brandon Marshall, Asante Samuel. They can all be at the next one. You won't have any repeat customers.
Yeah.
So it'd be a cool event to go to. I'd be interested in it.
Yeah, Mike Sims-Walker. I don't think Gabe Davis was there. Our guy Elton Patterson. I mean, he wasn't there. I mean, there's so many names that you could call in and have be a part of that. George, I mean, Mackenzie. So I asked Trace. He did not answer this question. Mackenzie, when he was on with us, teased that there was a former ball coach going to be there. I didn't see any former ball coaches in the videos that I have access to. I didn't see George. I didn't see Cruz. And you figured one of those two would have been in a picture. Obviously, Gene McDowell has long since passed. Heupel obviously wasn't there. I didn't see Frost. You saw Malzahn there. So I don't know who that former ball coach was, or if he attended. But you've got options. I mean, you got a couple of coaches bouncing around. Who if you're going to bring those Dante teams back, Mike Kruczek is a huge part of that too, right? I mean, I'd love to see Cruz. Imagine Cruz sharing a stage with Dante and Ryan Schneider, two of his prolific quarterbacks who set a bunch of records at UCF. I think that would be a cool thing to see and kind of that bridge to the future and sort of looking at the past from what UCF had.
Yeah, I was surprised Schneider wasn't there. I don't know. I didn't ask him. Maybe I should ask him if he got the invite, but he was the one missing from the quarterback round Mount Rushmore, right? I mean, you got Bortles, Milton, and Dante there. I think Schneider, a lot of people put in there as that top 4 guy. It would have been cool to see him there. But, Kruczek and O'Leary, that would have been nice too. It's almost too much. If you would have had everybody at this thing at the first time, it might have been like an overload. You would have had to double the attendance or something for that.
Yeah, I'm sure they wanted, obviously, an intimate setting for the folks there, too. So who knows what it'll look like, but good on Dreamfield for putting this together. It looked like a fantastic evening. Again, check out all the videos on our YouTube channel if you want to see the full interviews with Traquan, with Blake, with Dante. Catch all their comments. Again, some exclusive video from part of the program. There may be more videos to come as well, so keep subscribed to that channel, Mike. So that was good to see. But then real world football comes back, and we just talked about all the great things that Dante did and how much things have changed, and things change pretty quickly. Full transparency, we're not the show that's going to sit around and talk about recruiting and star rankings and which guy looked this, which guy looked that. If anything, we're probably more of the we believe in, we see it kind of a show when it comes to recruits, Mike in particular. But Mike, news was really kind of swirling this weekend. This got interesting for a few different tentacles that it had there. Isaiah Nixon is a 4-star defensive end from right there in Orlando. He had committed to the Knights a couple weeks back. And really helped bolster the recruiting rankings. Was one of those big booms that Gus had that had us all going, hey man, maybe we've got our way, we've got our in, for the recruiting. Maybe we're finally breaking through. And then this weekend, Isaiah goes to visit University of Florida, and he posts an unfortunate picture with an unfortunate caption. It's him in the Gator uniform, which is not uncommon, but the caption read something to the effect of like. Always a Gator, once a Gator. This boy ain't no Knight, obviously spelled with a K. And then, today on Monday, he announces his decommitment. I don't think he's officially committed to UCF, but Mike, people lose their mind again. We're going after people on Twitter now. We're doing all this stuff. So first and foremost, let's just start with the basic one. Losing a 4-star commit to Florida means what to you?
Well, does this kid even play for Florida? Who knows? He may decommit from them and go play somewhere else. So none of this stuff really means anything to me. Obviously, he's a very highly rated recruit. It would be nice to have him. But if he doesn't want to be here, then don't come here. That's it. That's fine with me. And we'll find somebody else to take that spot. I'm not going to go attacking the kid. He's making a decision. Before he signed anything here, it's not like anything was official yet, so we all know the game. He decides to go somewhere else, fine. I mean, I'm sure Florida probably gave him a nice little bag of money or whatever it took to get him to change his mind, and that's just the way college football is nowadays.
So it's almost to the point where, I mean, as much as we all love the booms, right, and the boom watch, and it's fun and it's exciting, I mean, we should almost just not celebrate any of these at this point, right? I don't mean to sound like the curmudgeon of the world, but all the stuff it's written in pencil. It's not written in pen. It's not written in blood. This is written in pencil. It's basically an IOU, right? We're basically in the IOU game. IOU scholarship and IOU playing at your university up until you don't owe me anymore. And that's kind of how this went, Mike. But then you said attack on Twitter, right? And you get attack on social media. And that then made the rounds today. People were saying, lay off this kid. Some people were saying, like, look, he made a decision to go elsewhere. He took a cheap shot at the Knights. He's got to face that. Is there? I mean, to me, there's nuance, right? There's the whole like we wish you the best and go do whatever you got to do, right? And then there's the whole like I hope something terrible happens to you. Like those are the two extremes. But I think in between it can be like, man, that sucks. Like wish you could have stayed here. Oh well, best of luck to you. Like is that an attack or is that just a dude just saying best of luck to you? Wish you would have come here.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what I just said. I'm not going to say it to the kid himself. I don't. What is actually the point of talking to these guys on Twitter? You want to get a reply out of them? You want to get
That's a great question.
Skin?
That's a great question. I assume, and this is just my assumption. I assume, UCF, fanatic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is sitting at the keyboard, sees Isaiah Nixon's decommitment, and goes, you know what? I'm going to change his mind. And goes to the keyboard and goes, hey, Chief, you should have stayed at UCF. We're the best school for you. Florida sucks. And then Isaiah looks at his phone and goes, holy crap, he's right. Why didn't I think of that? UCF fanatic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 figured it out for me. I should have, you know what? Mom, can we get the graphic change? I don't want to, I assume that's what people think is going to happen, no?
I don't know. That or they're just so bored with whatever they're going on in their lives. They feel like they have to comment on every recruit every time they change their mind. And if you do that, you got nothing.
Good luck.
Yeah. Going on for yourself.
Good luck.
Every time this happens every day, somebody's changing their commitment.
Yep.
So and guess what? A lot of guys that commit to us were committed somewhere else first too.
Yeah. So
are we attacking their character and all? The whole thing is kind of ridiculous.
I think it was the alleged cheap shot that he initially posted on his Instagram that got people kind of riled up. But here's the thing, to your point, why respond to this stuff at all on social media, right? Like, why respond to it? And some people are going to say, well, these guys are always saying, like, Night Nation, show me some love, follow me on Instagram, and so they all go do it. And then as soon as they do that, they're like, lay off the kid. You can't say anything bad about him. Either way, like, why are we, tweeting at high school kids? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the part is if someone announces that they're leaving the school and you don't know them personally, you're not a family member, you're not a friend, you're not a coach, like, just keep scrolling, right? Keep it moving, take the L if that's what the case happens to be on this one. Again, the cheap shot sucks, right? And you hate to see someone, take a dig at a school on the way out, particularly when UCF, by all accounts, didn't do anything to this kid, right? But you said the key thing. I mean, who knows where he ends up? Who knows how he ends up? And it's funny because, just rewind to the first part of this episode so far, and we talked about a bunch of guys that are UCF legends. And by and large, all of them were mixed bag recruits, probably outside of Dante, to your point, who wasn't even ranked back in his days, right? And we're honoring legends, and none of them were these 4-star, 5-star hype guys. These were guys who came in and played well. So there's no guarantees with anything. It certainly sucks losing somebody who, by all accounts, is very talented. It certainly sucks losing somebody who plays in our own backyard. And obviously Florida is a rival school in some respects, so it sucks losing someone to a rival. But just keep it scrolling, man. Like, all right, he doesn't want to play here. All right, somebody else does, and that person may be just as good. So let's keep scrolling. Let's keep it moving.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, they're trying to get. It has to be that they're trying to get these guys to react to them, or I don't know. But not even just high school kids. How about the guys that are on the team now and attacking those guys when something goes wrong during the season? What is the point? I'll never understand it. And
well, define attack.
People send death threats.
Well, that's just stupid, right? Anytime you're going to get in a player's DMs, that you need to go check yourself into someplace. Attack is an interesting word though, because you and I are just as guilty of anybody. We're watching a game and you're like, oh my god, that guy's got stone hands. Like, I killed Jacob Harris for 3.5 years because he couldn't catch a cold, right? Like every time I isotoner gloves every year I gave him for Christmas on our Christmas shows, right? Like there's a line between like attacking somebody and being critical, right? I think you can be critical of play, you can be critical of like people making a mistake on the field, but I think attacking them in a sense of name calling and threats and just crossing the line, which we all kind of know when you see it. I think that's a whole different scenario.
Yeah, and going after their family members, things like that. They're all, I don't know. There's a whole set of people on Twitter that are just there, and I think they're just doing it for fun. They think that it is fun to go after these kids and attack them for their decisions that they're making or for their play on the field. They get kicks out of it. I don't know. I don't know how else to describe it.
Well, let's just look at this now, bigger picture. So UCF, we had, obviously been talking about we're the future of college football. Gus had been off to a pretty hot start, getting some local kids to commit to UCF early. He was building that 23 class, a lot of excitement there. First class to go to the Big 12. Bigger picture, losing a kid to potentially Florida, right, as a school, do you see that as a big problem? Is that a little problem? Is that no problem? Is that just the cost of doing business? Does that have anything larger? Because there's still a bunch of good commits in this class, and we've all learned something today, if you didn't already know it, which means that until you see any of these kids wearing, black and gold, 2 years from now on a Saturday, then don't assume that they're part of the team. Is this a signal of bad things that we're losing kids like this to a school like Florida when we thought we had them wrapped up, and we think that we're sort of the new college football and we're etching our way into the Big 12? Is this a big issue?
No, this happens to every school. It happens to Alabama. It happens to every top school. They lose commitments to other schools, and we're losing them to it. We lost a kid to an SEC school in the same state. That means the fact that they're going after our recruits is a good sign. They're not going after guys that are committed to FAU. They don't want any of those guys. We're competing for these very good players now, these 4-star guys. And we had one for a little while, and he decided to change his mind. That's fine. We're gonna refill it with another guy that's just as good, or rated just as high, and other schools are gonna come after him too. And if we can hold on to him, that's great. If not, these are the battles that we're going to be involved in. If we want this team to get better, we're going to start going after these higher quality players, and it's going to come with more recruiting battles. So it's just part of the territory that we're going to have to deal with now.
Yeah, a couple of my thoughts on that. I agree with you. I think if you and I said this from the very beginning of talking about how to fix UCF football, and this was back when Heupel was leaving and Malzahn was staying, we said, hey, we need to go and win a couple of these battles with the Miamis, with the Floridas, with the Florida States, right? We did that. We did a little bit last year. We got the Henderson twins. Miami came after them late. We've had a couple of battles with Florida. I mean, I don't know what Quan Lee was going to get out of Florida, but allegedly he came to UCF instead. And we've said, hey, you've got to win a few of those battles. You're not going to win them all. You got to win a few. But what we've always said distinctly is you've got to win the battles with the Stanfords and the, Northwesterns and the Pittsburghs and the Syracuses and the West Virginias and, the NC States. Those are the ones we have to win. We can't let schools like that come and take our talent out of Florida and transplant them someplace else. Those are the kids we have to keep. And we did that last year. We kept this Townsend kid going from all the way over to Iowa State to come into Florida, right? Those are the battles that we need to win if you ultimately want to be successful. We got to win a few against the Floridas, the Miamis, Florida States. I get that, but I don't think we can win them all. So in this case, we lose a battle to a Florida, right? And that unfortunately is going to keep happening. I'd rather lose a battle to a Florida than lose a battle to Iowa State or Kansas State or I guess they're going to be conference, but Missouri, whatever. I'd rather lose battles in state than see a good kid leave us to go to another school out of state.
Yeah, and this is the world we live in. The number one recruit in the country was supposed to go to Florida State, ends up at Jackson State with Deion Sanders, right?
Yep.
So, we don't have the money to compete with some of these bigger schools, so we're going to lose a lot of players just because of that. A lot of players are going to go to wherever they're going to get paid the most. And we're not going to be able to pay somebody what Florida is going to pay somebody. And if that's what happened here, then that's what happened here. I don't know that's what happened, but I'm guessing it had a part of it. It had something to do with it. But that's just the way we're going to have to deal with from now on. And it's what's going to happen when we start recruiting these 4- and 5-star guys. We've got a lot tougher competition. We're not just going up against Marshall and East Carolina for recruits anymore. We're going up against the SEC schools. We're in the Big 12 now. We're going to start going up against all these guys. Yeah. And we're going to lose recruits all the time. And we're going to steal some, too, along the way.
Yeah, the number one running back in the nation just canceled his official visits to Georgia and Texas to commit to Louisville today. So, again, more strange recruiting. Here's the other part, Mike, with all of this. In some respects, I'm almost more concerned about losing our existing players to the portal or to NIL stuff, guys who we know can play, guys who we've seen play, guys who we've seen produce. Not that I don't recognize we have to bring in new, fresh talent every year to continue to make a good team, and bringing in a 4-star D end is certainly about that. But one of the things I think we glossed over, and maybe we should bring it back, when we had Mackenzie Milton on the live show a couple weeks back, he made a statement. You asked him a question about NIL and what, and buying T-shirts from people who aren't going to be here. And Mackenzie said that there are guys on the UCF team right now that got offered a lot of money or more money or some sort of money to go play someplace else and decided to stay at UCF because they want to be there. And I think that's really, to me, that's probably where our eyes should be focused on right now, is losing that existing talent that we have, losing a starter on the line, losing a receiver, to a school, right? Like, I think that's where, as much as you don't want to lose a 4-star kid in recruiting to Florida, unproven commodity right now. He may be great. I don't know. I'm not saying he's not, but unproven commodity. Losing your starting left tackle, for lack of better words, to go to another school. That's another issue all to and of itself. So we're going to be warned all day long about these kind of things. And in my head, I guess my bigger concerns are probably the existing talent in some respects, because we know what that is and we know what that loss is if they're not here anymore.
Yeah, we just lost Jalen Robinson. And he's going to Oklahoma, or no, where's he ended up going now? Mississippi.
Ole Miss, yeah.
And he was the best receiver we had a couple of years ago. He didn't play much last year for injury, but a lot of these guys are going to be tempted. The schools, the SEC schools, big time schools, are going to come and look at our roster and say, which one of these guys can we steal from them? How much money is it going to take to get this guy to come to our school? And that's another thing we're going to have to deal with here. It's great that Mackenzie said a lot of these guys turn that down, but I can tell you that's got to be very hard for these guys to turn down, and a lot of people are not going to be able to resist that temptation. If you're telling them you're giving them a certain amount of money to come play there for another year, then they can go pro and make more money anyway. So that's going to be a tough one for us to keep up with.
Yeah, I mean, so we're freaking out over losing a 4-star commit that we have no idea if this kid can play football at all, right? And I think it's all just going to have to be in context, Mike. It's all in good fun. But Isaiah Nixon, hardly knew you. Wish you the best. Once a night, always a night, I guess. And on to whatever he is. And now we'll freak out over the next commitments we're all watching. Again, these are all IOUs. These are not ironclad. These are not signed in blood or ink. These are all signed in pencil. And I think it's a good reminder that we have to just keep that as such and understand that people are going to change their mind, make decisions, and ultimately you saw a room full of really talented knights who came from scenarios who were probably less than 4 or 5 stars, and they turned out pretty good. We always seen a way to figure it out at times. So let's keep that going, Mike. Quick update to a story from last week. We talked about Greg Lovelady in the Ohio State job. It looks like that is no longer a thing at this point. It looks like Ohio State's made their hire, is going to make their hire. Went with an assistant coach from I think it was TCU. So all signs are pointing to Greg Lovelady and Ohio State's flirtation coming to an end. We turn our attention to Cindy Ball Malone watch. Elo seemed to be indicating on Twitter today he didn't have a lot of concern. I trust Elo on all these things. So that's the Coach Watch 2020 update. Looks like Lovelady for right now in Ohio State has come to an end, and we'll see what happens with Coach Ball Malone. But it looks like some people are feeling good about her staying too.
Last week, you told me off air that it was a done deal. Lovelady was going to Ohio State. You had inside tip.
I did.
No good?
Apparently not. Apparently, that's why I told you off air, not on air. Yeah, no, we had some information that it sounded like it was, and I don't know what transpired. I don't know if offer wasn't made or whatnot, but it sounded like there were some people who thought really firmly that was going to happen, but shit happens. What are you gonna do?
All right. Well, we've got Greg Lovelady for another year, it appears, and he better make the best of it, because this is going to be a big season for him coming up before we head to the Big 12.
I can put that on my next list of things that you've done or seen at UCF. Were you here when Greg Lovelady almost didn't go to Ohio State? Maybe that could be a new item that I can add to a future list.
Yeah, you did a nice job with that list. We have 40 things there of things you've experienced here at UCF, and it's very tough to knock off every one of those. Yeah,
what you were 20? There's a bunch of comments. You were 21, I think you had on there.
I think 22, but you know what? I'm not even sure about one of them. Let me go look at the list again. There was one of them, a class in the education gym.
Yeah.
I think I did.
So
I'm pretty sure I did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you and I took a class that I think. So I said yes to this one too. I took team sports as a class, and that was absolutely in the gym. I don't know if you took that one with me or not. But I'm 99% sure that for coaching football, which we had with Torchy, another point on this list, that we went into that gym several times and he like just let us screw around because he didn't want to like teach or anything like that. I'm fairly positive that happened more than a few occasions. So while that wasn't like the main classroom, we spent a lot of time in that classroom too. So did you also take like self-defense? I could have sworn that was in that education gym.
No, I never took the self-defense. So no, you took it. I think our other roommate Craig took it our freshman year, but I never took that one.
Yeah.
But I do remember having a class in that gym. Like you said, it wasn't where we met every week, but we had a couple sessions there.
Okay. Yeah, it's a tough list. There's 40 things. I tried to make it, a little bit challenging, right? I didn't want to be like, went to the memory mall. Like I wanted to try to make it a little bit challenging. It was tough. I was trying to skew a little bit young and old. Some things that some of the newer fans and students could have done, and some stuff some old people would have done back in their time at UCF, including you and I. So it was not meant to be 40 of the most important things that ever happened at UCF, right? It was more just 40 random things to see how many people have been part of it. I think Kirk's Jerks got a lot of play today, and UCF Biggie, who I think is credited with being one of the founding members of Kirk's Jerks. If I've seen all the comments correctly today, I think he's in the leader in the clubhouse. I think he's in the 31 range. I think that's the highest I've seen. I saw 26 from Robert, 2 letters, 2 words. Patrick Nurse is at 31 as well. So maybe there's a tie there. I think Biggie was at 32. But the average is right in that 18, 19, 20, 21 area. I'm like, that's actually higher than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Some of these things, I had never heard of wild pizza before. I think that's before our time.
It was.
You're going to be old for that. One of the newer things I've never done is caught a duck and spirit splash.
Yep.
That happened after we graduated.
Fair.
So I haven't been back in the reflection pond since graduation. The Adam Sandler concert was before our time.
Yep.
I did graduate in 4 years, so I
Yes.
knocked that one off.
Same.
I know what CVI is. I wasn't able to get to the softball regional this year. I've never met Taco Paul. So a lot of these, it's very hard. To get over half, I'd say is pretty tough.
Yeah, no, and Wing Shack Bladderbus got some play today. Mike, I don't know if was today the day you learned that was fake, or I assume I could have sworn there was a day that you did recon, that you stood outside the bathroom the entire time we were there, and you watched, and no one went in there, and then they're like, all right, everybody, someone went to the bathroom, and you were like hopping mad because you had staked out that bathroom the entire time, and you were like, there's no way that happened. I could have sworn. I'm not making that up, am I?
No, I don't think so. But yeah, we knew that was a gambit. That was a scam the whole time. Everybody would run out to the side and pee by the dumpsters and all that stuff and make your way back in. But yeah, it shut down probably around 11:45, 12 o'clock every time. Somebody peed. Okay, now you got to pay for your beer. It was just a way to get people to show up to the bar, and it worked. It was a great little scheme they had there. We were there every week. What was it, Wednesday nights, I think it was, Butterbust. So good times, but yeah, they weren't fooling me with the somebody peed thing. I never believed that.
I love when nothing gets past you, Mike. It was a fun look. It's a fun thing down memory lane. It's summer. There's not much going on. It's a trend that goes around social media every now and again. So maybe here's the cool thing. Like in the comments, like a bunch of people had like, "Hey, I remember this," or "Hey, what about this one?" or "Hey, what about that one?" So we could probably do like another 3 or 4 of these lists if we really wanted to. Like one of the other fun ones. I'm curious how many people can say yes to this. Stayed for the entire Marshall Downpour game.
Yep, that was not me. I wasn't even at that game.
No, neither.
I stayed for the whole Boise State game. That's on the list.
Yeah, that's there. Well, that was stayed till the end. Yes, the whole thing.
Yeah. What's the Meta head football coach? I think a lot of people have probably done that listen to this show, especially going to the events that they've had here in the last few years. You've had a lot of chances to meet the coaches.
The most exclusive item on this list, though, is Have a Sons UCF hat, right? I mean, because there's only, I think, like 9 or 10 of those floating around out there, no?
I think we had, how many did we have maybe? Like 24? I think we had 12 and then another 12 maybe.
Okay.
I think I still have about 3 or 4 left in the box. And there's about 20 people maybe that have one of these hats. That's a tough one to get.
That's a tough one, yeah.
Which other one really got me here? I've never stormed the court at a basketball game. Right? That's only happened like 2 or 3 times.
Your time may be coming to an end for that to happen too, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know, storming. age anymore. I mean, I could be the last guy on the court. That still counts.
I did feel bad. I got called out for one of them was used a trough at the Citrus Bowl. And I got called out asking if there was troughs in the female bathrooms at the Citrus Bowl, to which I don't know. But I also don't know that doesn't mean that there hasn't been someone of the female gender who used a trough at the Citrus Bowl. So I don't know. It could be an option.
Women use men's bathrooms all the time, especially when there's long lines, and vice versa. Yeah. Men have used women's bathrooms. And if the line's completely backed up and you got to go, you find the closest bathroom and you just make your way in there.
Yeah. I don't recommend it, by the way, for ladies, but it's an option. I'm just throwing it out there.
Parking in a dirt lot. Are there any more dirt lots on campus that people park on? I don't even know.
I don't think so.
That was a big thing back then. The whole Memory Mall was just a dirt lot.
That was just a dirt lot, yes. Yes.
When we were at school.
And there was a one next to it, too, where there was like now, is that where the ROTC building is? There's a building there now where there was that other smaller dirt lot. There were the two dirt lots there.
Right. And then when it rained, it was all mud and it was just bumpy. It was horrible. Horrible. But the one that everybody should have, and if you don't have, the only one that you can do right now is subscribe to the Sons of UCF YouTube.
That's right. Free. It's a freebie.
Everything else you had to have already done, or you have to wait for your next chance to do something. That is something you can do right now. So if you don't have any of these 40 things, boom, free one.
That's the free.
Subscribe to our
free center square right there. Boom. Just it's a bingo board. There's your free bingo right there.
Right.
Make it happen. Yeah, it's fun. It's on our Twitter at Sons of UCF if you want to take a look at it. People are still kind of going through and commenting on it, but it's still out there.
Did I see right that does college segment advisor not go to the college game day game? He was not there.
No, I was. There was somebody surprised that Biggie doesn't own a jersey. I was surprised on that one. Yeah, I was. I messaged him. I wrote back, and he said he went to the game, just didn't go to the TV event. So I don't know if he had a work situation, a family thing going on, but
yeah, that's a big upset. I would have figured he'd be there for that one.
Yeah.
What else? I attended lunch with George. I never did that.
Well, I mean, I think you made up for it, though. No.
Yeah, I mean, I have his phone number now. I could have lunch with George anytime, I guess, as long as he agrees to it. But no, he used to have that the day before every game, and it was Friday afternoons. You get to go have lunch with him and ask him questions, and it was just open back and forth. But I was never in town the day before the game, so I never got to do one of those.
We got a couple. Here's a couple of ones that have come through suggestion-wise. They're not on the list. Somebody added climbed the water tower. That was something you could even
climb the water
tower. Noise penalty game. That's a good one. Lived in one of the original 7 dorms. I don't know what that was. Hung out with Mandy Messiger. Well, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Mandy's a good one. Somebody else had one too. Now I'm gonna have to have some dead air here as I try to find
sex in the library.
I don't know. That might be on the next one. Yeah, I'm not sure that's on. Well, because then there's that version too, right? Where you could do like the puked on campus, right? Like I feel like there's a lot of options, available to you if you want to take it to a darker place and see who's willing to admit to what,
If you've done that in the library, the Pegasus in the middle of the student union, and the 50-yard line, that's the Holy Trinity, I think. I don't know if somebody's done that in all 3 spots. But
someone said
that would be interesting.
The catch. I assume that's referring to J.J. Wharton? Or is that
on the road?
Hal Perryman?
Both road games. That'd be tough. Most of these, pretty much everything on this list is local, right?
Yes, I did. I said attended Fiesta Bowl games is the only other one. I was going to put it the Hawaii Bowl, but I figured how many people actually did that one. Like I tried to make it a little bit easier on this one.
Yeah, I mean the Ireland trip. I think somebody said should be in there. If you've gone to Hawaii and Ireland and both Fiesta Bowls, I mean that's a lot of traveling. That's a lot of frequent flyer miles you've racked up there just going to UCF games on those 4 alone.
Worked out in the Dome.
Well, what is the Dome? There was a gym inside. There's a gym that nobody knew about inside the old arena.
Yeah.
It was like in the back of the old arena. I went there a couple times, and there was never anybody there. There was like the one dude that was sitting there to see who came in and out. And there was that gym. There was the old Wayne Dench. And this was before they built the wellness center. But I wonder if anybody knows what I'm talking about. Is that the dome? What is the dome? I don't get it.
I don't know either. I don't know. Just you asking what dome is just made me laugh. Anyway, check out our Twitter at Sons of UCF. Follow us on there too. Follow us on Instagram, Sons of UCF. Follow Mike at UCF Mike 1. Do all the follows you can do. 5-star ratings, reviews, do all that good jazz. Maybe we'll put out some more lists. Who knows? We're bored over the summer. We do have a little spin on Mount Rushmore will debut here in a couple of days. So stay tuned for that, Mike. But let's take a quick break. After this, I'm going to give you a bunch of money and see how you spend it. And I think this will hopefully be a lot of fun. Who knows? But don't go anywhere. You can actually take 1 point off if you listen to the Sons of UCF. That's another good one we should put on there. Don't move.
Yeah. And you know what? I never got a parking ticket either. Did you?
Yes. I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Scofflaw.
They'll never catch me.
This is UCF head football coach Gus Malzahn, and you should listen to the Sons of UCF like your hair's on fire. Go Knights and charge on.
All right, Mike, here's what we're going to do. We talked on the top part of the show about a few different things, and there was a money tie-in to a lot of them, right? There was an NIL tie-in. There was a tie-in about facilities, right? You wanted to build a Hall of Fame, which I think is a great idea. I'm not opposed to that at all. But there's a lot of things that need to get done. Obviously, we're going to the Big 12 soon. We talked about Lovelady, maybe thinking about going, but now not going. Cindy Ball Malone, what does her future look like? We lost Coach Abe, obviously. Money is certainly a thing, and we don't have enough of it at UCF. We know that, and we need to get more. But getting it is just half the battle. It's how you spend it, Mike. So I've got great news for you. Great news for you. I don't know if you know. I don't know if anyone has told you this. I don't know if you know this or not. But you, my friend, have come into a financial windfall. I can tell you that due to your hard work on the podcast, you have earned $25 million.
Wow!
Congratulations.
That's a big jump.
I know.
From the money we were making.
I know. Now we can hire those 18 employees. But you have to decide this, because here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to give you the $25 million, but you have to promise you can only spend it on something UCF related. You've got to donate it back to UCF. You've got to give it back to the program. So it's only yours for a hot minute, but you'll be a celebrity on campus. You can, put your name on any building you want to, Mike. But in all seriousness, if I give you $25 million and you can divvy it up however you want, right? And I understand there's price costs, there's inflations, and just go with me on this one, people, right? I don't know the exact construction material cost these days. I understand it's probably high. But if I gave you $25 million, Mike, how would you split it up? What would be your priorities? How much money would you want to give in which area? And here are a few options I wrote down. You can take whatever you want, by the way. Facilities, right? We know we need, or we want to add on to the football stadium. We talk about, potentially the baseball or softball stadium needs a bit of an upgrade. Do we have a soccer field? I don't think we do. Do we need to update the Wayne Dench? Do we need to add a Hall of Fame? What do we need to do there, right? Then you have teams, right? We always say basketball is woefully underfunded. Some of the other sports need a lot of funding help. Softball, so we're giving money to teams to try to build up powerhouses and different teams. What about NIL? Are you giving money straight to NIL so we can get the 4-star, 5-star guys to not leave and go someplace else, but yet they can stay at UCF? What about coaches' salaries? Right? A couple of years, someone's calling T. Will's name, and they want to give him a job, and we're going to start losing guys here and there. Mike's got $25 million. How would you even begin? What are your priorities in divvying something like this up? Because ultimately, UCF is going to get money at some point, but how they spend it's really going to decide how successful we're going to be as a program for the next 10, 15, 20 years.
Arch Manning. Give it all to him.
Okay, done. And that's an episode.
Quarterback. Segment over. All right. Great question. $25 million, when you say all those things that we need help at, doesn't seem like enough.
That's the problem. When I gave you $25 million off the top, you were really excited. And now you're like, crap, I need like $100 million more.
Yeah, it's almost too much. The stadium, it's fine the way it is. You want to add a couple other things to that's going to make you more money, some more premium seating. That's cool. How much were we planning on spending on that upgrade for the that one end zone addition we were doing? That was over $25 million.
Yes,
I think,
yes, right? It was definitely over $25 million.
So I couldn't even pay for all that.
Well, you could pitch in though, right? You hey, I'm gonna give $15 million to that, and I'm gonna get us there, and and other people got to kind of pitch in, right? You could pitch in however much you want to try to get something done, right? You got $25 million. Like, you can pitch in $1 million, you pitch in $24 million, whatever you want to do.
All right. My first priority is the football program.
Okay.
Because football is the money maker. It's what funds all the other sports. If football is not making money, the athletic programs altogether are not making money. So we got to take care of that first. And if we're going to do that, we got to have some stability here. We got to ensure that we believe that Coach Malzahn is the guy for the long-term future of this program. We got to secure him. We got to make sure he's paid. He's not going anywhere for at least 5 to 8 years. Right? You've got to build something here for a while.
So you're going coaching slush fund.
Yes.
Okay.
We got to guarantee he's not going to be stolen from us in the next 3-4 years.
And is this slush fund only available to Malzahn? Can T-Will get a little piece of this? Can Ice Harris get some of this? Or is this just Malzahn money?
It's Malzahn, and I'm going to leave it up to him who he wants to,
He gets one protector?
Siphon some of it off.
Okay.
Yeah, he can take care of two of his coordinators if he wants, but he's his own offensive coordinator, so he probably wouldn't want to do that. But if he believes T-Will is the guy to lead this defense and maybe even take over after he's gone and he needs to take care of him, that's fine. If he thinks T-Will's great, but he can win just as much with somebody else and he doesn't feel the need, then that's up to him.
So you're bumping Malzahn's salary, and you're going to give him a pool of money to divvy up as he sees fit with his assistants.
Exactly.
Okay. How much is that costing you? How much? We going $2 million there, $5 million? How much money are you giving Gus?
How much is he getting per year right now?
He's getting 2.1, something like that, 2.3, somewhere in there.
All right. And how much is Nick Saban getting?
20.
So probably somewhere in the middle there. Okay, let's just say for round number purposes, now this money is all in 1 year. Do I get $25 million again next year to do this?
You'll have to see how good the podcast does. We'll see how good this episode does. These lists are hot, bro. These lists may take us to the next level.
All right. So in order to keep him here for another 5 years, maybe an extra $2 million per year. That's $10 million right there.
Oh my God! All right, $10 million to coaching. Oh boy, you're down to $15 million. Now $15 million left. That's a big check you just cut. Okay.
That's right, but he's not going anywhere, and this program every year he's here is getting better and better.
Okay, he's locked in. Okay.
We've already seen the floor. The floor is beating Florida in the Gasparilla Bowl.
Let me just
ceiling.
I wouldn't be a good financial advisor if I didn't point out the risks in some of these things, Mike. I mean, if he sucks, we're out $10 million. If he has a terrible year next year, if he just starts falling apart, he can't keep up with the times, he can't find the right quarterback, all of a sudden that $10 million is right down the drain.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Moving on.
That's the risk you take.
Okay.
Otherwise, who's going to be the coach? Jeff Levy? I mean, people would have been happy with that.
Probably be $10 million.
All right,
yes. Okay, so $10 million is off the board. $15 million to go.
All right. So football is taken care of?
Well, I mean, you took care of the coaches, yeah. I mean, so you got stability at the coaching ranks. You feel like you're going to have the staff you need, right? So now, does the stadium need help? Do we need to do anything with NIL deal? I mean, what about other sports? You got $15 million.
We're going to have to pay some of these players, some of the best players coming in.
Okay.
We're going to have a few million spread out there for the top recruits in the country.
So the UCF Mike Collective is beginning. Okay, I like this.
We don't want guys to decommit and go to Florida. We want to keep those guys here. We want to start signing some 5-star players.
All right.
It's going to cost us some money.
The names you need to know in NIL: Ruiz and Espinoza. How much we putting in this NIL collective?
Yeah. Well, that's Ruiz. How much is he paying the Miami guys?
He's put like $800K just for a shooting guard.
Jeez. All right, so we're gonna have to be careful with this one.
Well, again, you can decide. Maybe this only goes to the 5-star guys. I mean, you're writing the rules here, but you need to have a kitty of money available. Maybe you never dip into it. Maybe you never greenlight it to be used. But Malzahn is going to get this money, I assume, too. Yes, and he's going to be like, hey, UCF Mike, I need this guy right here, and you're going to be like, cool. I'm gonna dip into the money to get him. So it may not be for everybody, but you're going to put some money aside. All right, what's the figure on this? I mean, 2, 5.
Yeah, Bryce Young made over $1 million, right, his freshman year.
I think that was a collection of deals from other. I don't know if it was from a collective per se, but yes, allegedly he made over $1 million.
man, all my money's going to be gone. 25 is just not enough.
I'm sorry.
You pay Malzahn and 10 of the best recruits in the country, they take all $25 million. But just for this sake, let's put
hold
aside.
on. But is that worth it though? Like, it's to your point. Like, if you pay Malzahn, you have stability in the coaching staff, right? And in your view here, what we're saying is we think Gus is the long-term answer. He can build the program. He can run an offense. He can make us successful in the Big 12. He can be competitive. We can be in games, right? And now you're going to go get me some of the best players that are available right there, right now. We're going to put them in black and gold uniforms. They're going to play on those fields. And now we're going to be a team that's challenging for Big 12 championships, challenging to go to the college football playoff. We're challenging to be in a New Year's Six bowl. Does that take care of all your other problems? Does that give you more money in your coffers for facilities? Does that give you more money for Timo, if he's still your athletic director, to then say, hey, I'm going to cut a slice of this pie and give it over to baseball because we need a coach, right? Will those two alone make you enough revenue? Based on your premise earlier, you said football is where it's at, right? And maybe in theory, if you're telling me I want to put all 25 into players and coaches, maybe that gets you everything else. I don't know.
Yeah, if that buys you a national championship in the next 3 years, a winning one through the playoff system and all that, it may very well be worth it because that alone is going to do all the recruiting you need to do for the following classes. You go out and you win a national championship in the next couple of years, everybody's going to want to come play here. And if you do it, if you pay the right players and you can win back-to-back championships, all of a sudden then you're starting to build a dynasty here, and we are the marquee program in the state of Florida, and that thing just snowballs from there. So it may very well be just pay the coaches and the best players in the country, all $25 million. Let's see how good they are.
Wow,
And,
I did not mean. I did not think my argument was going to talk you into that. I wasn't planning on you actually buying that, but there is a sense there. I mean, can I talk you into this? Like let's use let's use 22 mil of your money. Save me $3 million for other coaches. Save me $3 million for if we need to do something with Lovelady, we want to get out of Dawkins. We need to keep Ball Malone. Do you want to save any money for? And can I talk you into giving me a little bit just for that rainy day fund? That hey, Timo calls and says bad news. Cindy got a phone call. Like, do you want to do that, or are you just going to ride it out with your football? Can I get $3 million?
No, for me. It's going to be mostly football. If you want, give you $3 million and go get 3 very good, top quality basketball players.
Okay.
And turn the whole program around, $1 million each. Boom! All of a sudden, we're good at basketball now. So you can keep Johnny. Because with those $3 million players, he should be able to win with those guys.
Okay. All right. So I talked you into that. All right. So what I've got now is I've got a coaching slush fund that's going to keep Malzahn and top assistants. We're paying everybody. So we got all the great players. We're paying basically. Wait, if I talked you into $1 million, so that's $3 million there. They're really good at math. That's 13 minus 25, right? So I talked you into $8 million for your NIL stuff. No, hold on.
All right.
I've talked you into $12 million for your NIL stuff. Sorry.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, if we're being honest, and I'm always honest with you guys.
He's never not been.
I don't care about all the other sports.
Oh,
I really don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I care about football. A little bit about basketball, but I really care about football. That's what keeps me up at night when we lose games. That's what I plan my whole off season about, thinking about, hey, how am I going to get out of celebrating my wife's birthday because we have a football game that day? Which games am I traveling to? Where are we tailgating at? Everything revolves around football.
Mm-hmm.
And if football wins every single game and every other sport loses every other single game, I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care. So, yeah, I was spending all my money on the football program. Basketball to a lesser extent, which is fun because I'd like to see us in March Madness. I'd like to see us be part of all that stuff. But to me, I'm allocating all my funds to football because without football, you don't have any of these other sports anyway. So the other stuff is just time filler, basically.
Well,
baseball, softball, all that stuff.
Yeah. The only argument I would say is you could probably have a dominant basketball program a la a Duke, a la a Kansas, and be successful, right? Because both those two schools aren't great at football, so I would assume basketball carries those schools. But so in theory, you need – I think basketball, football are really probably the top two, right? So in theory, you need one of those two programs to be like super dominant, and then everything else takes care of itself, right? So I think you could be like a Kansas basketball. Their football team sucks and has for years, but their basketball team carries them, right? So I think that's the only caveat. You could probably have a really strong basketball team, but we're way far away from that, though.
Yes, but that also depends on what state you're talking about, too. Yeah, in Kansas, nobody cares about football. In Florida, nobody really cares about basketball. I mean, when you compare it to football is so much further ahead of basketball in this state, and it's not that way in Indiana, Kansas, places like that. Yeah, it makes sense for basketball to be more important, but here, this is a football state, and it always has been and always will be.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's Mike's money. I don't know what I would do with my money, honestly. Like, as I said that argument to you, there is some credence to that. I don't know if I would have given as much money to Malzahn. I probably would have slashed that a little bit, maybe 5 to 8 for that Malzahn coaching slush fund situation. Because we've been through coaching transitions and we've still maintained success, right? I mean, we went from Frost to Heupel and we still were okay because it was the players that really kind of drove that. So. If we had to lose Malzahn, but we could find somebody else that's equally as good potentially, I might be okay with that. You never know who will shake free then. So I may have slashed Malzahn. I do think the collective stuff, unfortunately, is going to be a thing. I do think we have to find ways to put money in that. I wouldn't mind upgrading a facility. I don't know what it is. Probably something. If I can't pay the kids enough, I can entice them with really cool crap in the locker room, right? So I may go that route if I can't pay them enough. From a facilities perspective. So I may have gone that route. So maybe slashing Gus a little bit and putting something into a facility of some sort. Something, I don't know, like a freaking trampoline park. I don't know. Something that the kids would enjoy coming to see at UCF.
Yeah, but the facilities that these schools are building are hundreds of millions of dollars. There's so much. That $25 million is going to get you a couple ping pong tables, and that's about it to put in these things. It's so outrageous how much money some of these schools put towards this stuff that we're not even close to being able to compete that way.
Yeah.
The buildings that Florida and Florida State are making for their football offices don't even compare to what we have. And it's going to take us a long time to catch up. And we're probably never going to catch up because even though we're going to get a lot more money from the Big 12, them being in the SEC, they're going to have a new contract soon and they're going to make 3 times what they're making now. So that's always going to be – we're always going to be behind the 8 ball on that one.
Well, and if Kirk Herbstreit is to be believed today, that they're just going to break away from the NCAA and make as much money as possible. So the whole thing is falling apart. But, hey, not to worry. We will be here to cover it all, Mike. Let's take a quick break. I'm going to let you go count all your money that you just gave away. And we'll come back. We have a throwback interview we'll introduce to you. So don't go anywhere. Sons UCF.
This is UCF Athletic Director Terry Mohajir, and in my spare time, when I'm not on TikTok, I'm listening to Adam and Mike on the Sons of UCF. Go Knights and charge on!
All right, Mike, this week, I thought it was interesting. We saw a lot of conversation. You and I had this off the top of the show about seeing some of the legends back on campus, and it brought back obviously a lot of those memories from our time being at UCF, and even really the times before that. And one of the central figures and all that stuff was head coach Mike Kruczek. He was the offensive coordinator for a number of years under Gene Mcdowell. Played a huge role in a lot of the things UCF did. As you think about one of those, greatest of all UCF type events, Kruczek's a name that at some point you think would get on that list. Mike, we were super fortunate to have him on our program very early in our tenure, which is fantastic. And he spent a significant amount of time with us in that appearance and talked about everything of his time at UCF, which was fantastic. And so with kind of the reminiscent theme going on, I figured, why don't we roll that back out? Because that one is another one of those oldie but goodies that is no longer available on the interwebs. Mike may have just died there. I hope he's okay. So we're going to bring that one back to you here, courtesy of our friends at Gordon & Partners. Again, make sure you reach out to Michael Hoffman, UCF alum, if you have any legal needs. He knows people. If he can't help you, he will find someone who can. Just check him out at Gordon & Partners. That's fortheinjured.com. Ask for Michael Hoffman. Tell him go Knights, and he will take extra special care of you, Mike. But Mike Kruczek was just a good dude to talk to. His time at UCF ended kind of weird. We covered that with him a little bit in this episode in the show here, but he's definitely a name that UCF fans, I think it's important to continue to remember the things he did for the program.
Cruz was awesome. A lot of people remember him for just looking cool on the sidelines with the tight shirts, with his muscles popping out and sunglasses. but a very good coach. Nobody drew up an opening drive better than Mike Kruczek. We scored on the first drive of the game, seemed like every time.
Top 5 opening drives.
Yeah, just a great conversation. We got to talk to him about the Alabama game, the burglary between the hedges against Georgia. So I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. If you didn't catch it the first time, it's going to be awesome for you here.
And many of you probably have not. So let's catch up with Coach Kruz. My favorite part of this interview, right off the top, Mike, I believe he calls me partner, which I love. So let's bring in Mike Kruczek. You saw him roaming the sidelines for a number of years in a few different roles, and is none other than former head coach Mike Kruczek. Coach, we can't thank you enough for joining the show tonight.
It was my pleasure, partner. Happy to be a part of the show.
Well, let's start here. So we know you had a good pro career. You won a couple rings with the Steelers. Your career wrapped up, and you got into coaching. So you spent some time at Florida State, and then you were with the Bulls of Jacksonville of the old USFL days. So take us back then to the start. How do you become aware of UCF? How did you even find out about UCF? And ultimately, what ended up leading you to take a position on the staff at that time?
Well, I actually had heard about the University of Central Florida back when I was at Florida State in '83. I think I first became aware of a startup program down here while I was still coaching at FSU. And I made the decision to go back out and play with the USFL with Jacksonville. And in the interim time, Mcdowell, who I coached with at Florida State, he was a linebacker coach, became real good friends with him, took the job in '85, by the end of '84, really. And the USFL was a spring league. So I got hurt, ended up coaching, and did not actually work in '85 coaching, or '84, the fall of '84. He called me about coming down to work for him at UCF at the end of 1984 when he took the job. And it was kind of funny. I agreed to take the job without ever seeing facilities, the school. I read up a little bit about it, but the internet wasn't real big back then. So I knew very little about UCF other than the fact that he offered me the coordinator's job and run the offense, and he would keep his nose out of it, which, I agreed to. And I can remember coming back down on January 5th, 1985, driving on campus and driving up to what was the old Wayne Dench, and thinking, my gosh, what did you get yourself involved with? And it was incredible. But Gene had a vision, and so a bunch of young coaches on it, and I stayed 19 years. And so it was an incredible journey for me, having seen it transition from a very poorly funded Division II football program to where it is today, and all the stages all the way through it. So it's gratifying from that standpoint. We had some really good times.
Well, you mentioned the infrastructure. So can you take us back to what was there? I mean, where did you guys practice? Was there a weight room? I mean, again, today I think we're spoiled. We have the Wayne Dench. We have the new student center coming up. The on-campus stadium. There's going to be a lazy river at some point, maybe. But can you take us back when you walked on campus and what the facilities and the infrastructure is like at that point?
It'd be tough to explain because everybody that's involved with the program that's under 45 years old or 40 years old wouldn't understand what facilities we didn't have. The building that the football facility was housed in had baseball, soccer, female sports, and it was a single-story building that's no longer there. In fact, my office was in another building. The offensive staff was on the second floor overlooking the old pool. And then they built the rec center right next to it and tore that building down some years later. So our staffs weren't even housed together in the same building until 1987. We moved into the original Wayne Dench, which was turned into the academic center when they moved everything over to, the current Wayne Dench building. So, the infrastructure was that's what you want to call it, was really non-existent. The weight room just prior to me getting there was a dome behind the pool that was kind of it was a university weight room for all the students. They were very small, very hot, not air conditioned. And then we had a very small one in the building we existed in 85. And then when we moved over as either 86 or 87 into the old Wayne Dench, we had a bigger weight room. I think it may have been 1,800 square feet. The one they have now, which they've been in since 2003, is 10,000, 11,000 square feet. So it's amazing. We got done with what little we had to get it done with. So that's basically what we had. I mean, we were scattered all over the place for a while, but eventually the facilities came together and things that worked out very well.
Coach, you guys had some success in those early years. You made the playoffs in 1990, but the program really kind of took off or was put on the map when we signed a guy named Dante Culpepper. And you, as the offensive coordinator, played a big role in recruiting this kid. He had an incredible career. What were your first impressions when you saw Dante in person, or when you first saw him on film?
Well, the recruiting coach was Paul Lounsbury. Now, Paul was with us and with me for 13 years of my 19 years there. And he was a great recruiter. He had Ocala. And I remember him bringing back the tape on Pep. And I watched him. It didn't take 5 minutes to tell that this kid was a major league prospect. And, you know, having been a part of UCF, I'm Paul saying, we got a chance at this guy. And I said, Paul, come on. There's no way. You know, and so he stayed on top of Pep. And Dante actually came down unofficially on 4 different weekends during the season. And what happened was, if you know Dante's story, he never had a father. He was raised by his grandmother. And the mentors in his life were his high school coaches. And he stayed right on the fence academically with his GPA to stay eligible, and was never ever educated on what was necessary to get into college till his senior year. Well, going into his senior year, he was below what he needed to have as far as GPA and his test. Well, Paul saw that on his transcript going through his spring practice going into his senior year, and kind of assisted him on how to get, you know, what courses to take and what he needed to do. And Dante, being a very loyal person, always was very grateful to Coach Lounsbury and his effort to try and get him eligible for scholarship. And so that was a big reason we got Pep. And also the other part of it was having a chance to start. Darren Henshaw had just graduated. He was a 3.5-year starter. We really didn't have a quarterback. So he saw that as an opportunity in a young program, kind of being a big fish in a little pond, to go out there and do what he does best. And it really worked out for both parties, for us and for him.
When you found out he decided to come to UCF, what was your reaction as the offensive coordinator?
Oh, my gosh. I remember signing day. I mean, he had told me a bunch of times he was coming. I just needed reassurance, and I had the biggest smile on my face. We all did. We knew what a difference maker he was going to be for us. You know, we were moving up to 1A in a couple of years, and he would have been a junior, I think, in our first year of 1A football, and having 2 years behind him made a world of difference with the competition we had to play back then. Back then, it seemed like we existed in the SEC. So, like I said, it really worked out well for us, obviously. Like you said, he really put us on the map competitively and nationally as far as becoming a name, and also developing his own name for later on as he got drafted in the first round by the Vikings. So, like I said, it worked out well for him, and it worked out well for the University of Central Florida.
You were known for having a wide-open passing attack, up-tempo scheme. How do you describe your offensive system?
It's a hybrid of a pro offense and spread schemes is what it was. And it's advanced since the time I coached there. I haven't stopped coaching since I was at UCF. So it's constantly evolving with current trends to try and keep up with things. And, that's what I always did. I always studied the game of football and what people were doing at the time, and then putting my own twist on things. So I think the ability to evaluate the talent we had, and we always had a guy that could throw it. We had guys that could catch it. And, it made sense to just put a scheme together that revolved around those guys. Not that we were void of being able to run the football, mind you, but, a big part of our game was throwing around the park a little bit, and it worked out pretty well.
How much do you see some of your concepts used today?
Oh, everybody kind of runs the same thing. The only thing that changes is terminology. It really comes down to how you call the game and sequence things. I think a smart coach today is perpetually studying concepts if he wants to be successful in understanding those things as he evolves as a coach. I think that if you don't, then you're going to be left behind in this coaching race, which is very competitive. I'm 66 years old, and I still learn every day something new. And I think that's the way you approach things as a coach. And that's what I did at UCF. So, like I said, I those 19 years I was there was phenomenal. I was tremendously blessed by the Lord to put me in that position to be a part of something great.
Well, Coach, after that 1997 season, circumstances led to the departure of Coach Mcdowell. So what were your thoughts when you were approached about moving into the interim head coach title starting in that 98 season?
Well, that was a really unique time for me, too, because there was another situation going on at the same time. Coach McDowell resigned, and Coach Sloan had come to me about taking over because it was late in the recruiting process, and I had a great relationship with Coach Sloan, the AD at the time. And but the same day I got offered the interim head coaching job at UCF, I was offered the quarterback position with the Colts. And Jim Moore was the head coach, and Tom Moore, who was a forever coordinator with the Colts, was hired as the offensive coordinator. Now, Tom was my receiver coach when I played with the Steelers. So he called me on a Friday. That's when I was offered the job. And I told Coach Sloan and Coach Moore that I'd let them know on Monday. And it was a very difficult decision. I think that the big deciding factor in it was I had talked to Dante about staying his final season in December when he had to make up his mind whether he was declaring to come out early. And there was no way I was going to leave and him stay. So I said, you know what, he's staying, I'm staying. So and it worked out very, very well. I don't regret the decision either. So I remember those days. I remember that decision I had to make, and I always wanted to be a head coach, and I got the opportunity.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a cool story. So let's talk about that 98 year. Still one of the most successful in UCF history. Team went 9-2. During those 9 wins, you guys scored at least 31 points in all 9 wins. However, one of the most memorable games from that season, Coach, one of the games that still keeps me up at night was the game at Auburn. So do you still think about that game and how much? And is there still a play or anything that bothers you from that game?
Well, there's a lot of plays that bother me in that game. I think of, and 4 interceptions, and Dante only had 7 the whole year. You can't turn the football over at all against really good football teams, and I did not consider Auburn a really good football team that year. Their offense was very average, and defensively, they were a good football team. They matched up very well with us. However, turning the football over 5 times is just inconceivable when you're playing an SEC school on the road with the tradition they had and still win the football game. To be in the game at that point, at the end of the game, to have a chance to win it was remarkable, to be honest with you. Gene Chizik was the defensive coordinator. I hired him my first year and did a great job calling the game against their offense. We came with a blitz in the fourth quarter on 4th and 10, and they hit a hot on the backside, and the kid beat the free safety for a 55, 60-yard touchdown. And that was with a minute something left, and we couldn't move we didn't move the ball down the field far enough to score. So we ended up losing 10-6, I think. We only kicked 2 field goals. That was a very disappointing game for me, offensively, for us as a team, but especially offensively. We had a chance to win it, and we couldn't do it. We actually fumbled the ball on a quarterback power, and Chris Laurenti was the center, a great center. Started for 3 years, and it was a low snap and hit Daunte outside his right ankle on the ground, and he couldn't. We were on their 30-yard line, 28. If he catches it and was able to execute the run, he may score. It's him and the safety. So there was, you want to talk about plays you remember, the turnovers are the ones that killed us, but we had a chance, even with the first 4 turnovers, to have a chance to win it on the drive where we could have gone down and possibly put it away. So I don't think as a coach you forget too many of those big games. We played a lot of SEC schools really, really well back in the day, and that one's one we should have won the game, but we didn't.
Right. Well, the end of that 98 season was noteworthy too, because we accepted a tentative bid to play in the Oahu Bowl in Hawaii.
Right.
But then Miami beats UCLA, and it creates this domino effect, and then we get left out. How frustrated were you when you heard that we weren't going to a bowl that year?
Well, there was a lot of work put into that season. We had a lot of seniors. Tremendous leadership all off season, all spring, all summer. Obviously had a really good season. We lost to Purdue and we lost to Auburn, 2 very, very good football teams. And to go 9-2 and not make a bowl game is just unimaginable. I remember watching the Miami game, UCLA game. In fact, Larry Guest, who was a big-time writer for the Sentinel, watched the game at the house with me and my family. And I just couldn't believe what I was watching. Complete dominance by Miami. It's like UCLA didn't even care. Didn't show up. So it was very disappointing having to talk to the team that Monday morning after that game Saturday and, go through the formality of picking up equipment and collecting things and talking about finishing up the semester strong academically. The typical laundry list of things you talk about when your season's over with. And I wasn't ready to talk about that stuff yet. I had, in my own mind, I was sitting on that big jet going out to Hawaii in the first bowl game that UCF would ever play, but that wasn't happening. So, yeah, I think the whole team and the community was very disappointed in what took place. We would have played Tulane up at the Liberty Bowl in Memphis, if I remember correctly. So that would have been the first bowl game UCF went to.
Well, the next season, 99, no more Dante anymore. We had Vic Penn as the starting quarterback. How much pressure do you think was on Vic following in Dante's footsteps?
Well, I would imagine there was quite a bit on Vic. We recruited him out of the JC, out of Miami. He was more of a move guy. He was a sprint quarterback. He was not a drop back guy. He had a good arm. He was accurate. He's smart. And he had to come in and learn the system real fast. And I thought he did remarkably well considering the teams that we had to play. If you look at the schedule, you open with Purdue, then you play Florida, then you play Georgia Tech, then you play Georgia, then you play Auburn, week 7. And that's his first season at UCF. So, I think there was a lot of pressure on him to go out and perform, on a big arena situation with these SEC schools and Big Ten schools. And I thought he did remarkably well. I really do. There's credit to him, the success he had. And he had some really good games. Against some really, really good teams. So, we were 4-7 that year. And obviously there were reasons why with the 5 teams I just mentioned. Now, we lost a game, the last game of the year against Bowling Green in overtime, which we had no business getting beat in. So that was kind of a tough pill to swallow at the end of the season. But getting back to Vic, outstanding job, considering that we were really shorthanded, because I just mentioned the senior class we graduated from '98 that went 9-2.
Well, Coach, you talked about that murderer's row of games in that '99 season. One of the other most memorable games for UCF fans is probably that Georgia game. So for those who don't know, it's now famously known as the burglary between the hedges. And so we were driving late, and we were flagged for what many would call a phantom offensive pass interference call against Kenny Clark. So first, can you take us back on the field? What was your reaction when the flag was thrown and you realized that they were calling OPI on Kenny Clark?
Well, I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was on our sideline, and to sequence things prior to it, getting back to Vic, was having a great game throwing the football, and we were moving the ball down. It was 24-23. We were down a point, and we got down on the 30-yard line, 28, and I decided to take a shot. They were playing as press man, and I wanted to put Kenny Clark against their corner, their left corner, their defensive right corner. And Vic threw the fade takeoff in the end zone, and he put it up where Kenny could go up and make a play, and all of a sudden I see the flag come out. I'm thinking he's calling pass interference on the defense, and all of a sudden he motions to offensive pass interference. Well, that kind of took us out of field goal range. So I was in disbelief on the call. At best, it was a no call to me. But, you're playing in an SEC school, and you're a very traditionally great football program. So it was a great football game. It really, really was. Kids played incredibly hard, and for 60 minutes in the game. The funny thing is about that game is the night before, Javier Bolegi, who had a great career, was sick. And he took an antihistamine or something the morning of the game, which made him drowsy. And in pregame warm-up, he was taking a snap because he punted and he broke his finger. I don't know if it was his pinky or whatever, and he had a buddy tape him. And he had a missed extra point, I believe, and a missed field goal. And so thinking back to my thought process about it, I think that may have been the reason for trying to take a shot. I'm trying to recall my thoughts about that, but that's what took place before the game. So our kids played very well against a great football team. I mean, when you look at the four teams we opened up with, I mean, no one was ranked below 13th in the country of the four going into the season. So our guys played remarkably well against a stacked schedule early.
Yeah, it was a very tough schedule. We ended up going 4-7 that year, which I'm sure was disappointing to you and everybody. But heading into the off season now, what did you want to see changed heading into 2000?
Well, obviously we were a young football team and we had to get better. I think our kids were learning how to work in the off season, because that's really truly when you win football games. And, with the facility, the kids getting used to campus. Like I said, we had young players. Vic Penn was a young player when you consider he'd only been there a year, and buying into what we do, adding new recruits, new signees was a critical factor in us moving forward, and trying to become more visible to get into a conference. And so I thought the guys did a great job of regrouping in the off season after a disappointing season, but that season was predictable when you look at the schedule. It just was. Not that you would ever say anything to a team, but you expect the guys to go out there and compete week in and week out, and that's what they did. The schedule wasn't nearly as hard the following year, and we played better. So that's all you can ask from the players. So they worked harder, they believed in themselves, and went out and played better in 2000. So Ryan Snyder came on board that year, and was a part of the quarterback room, and eventually wound up being a pretty good quarterback for UCF.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that Vic actually got hurt the next year. We were 2-2, and then Schneider takes over. What was it about Schneider that you really liked?
You know what? He was just a tough son of a gun. I mean, you could hit him 1,000 times, and it would never change his game. You couldn't intimidate him. He was just a tough guy that understood pass game concepts, smart, wasn't the greatest athlete in the world, but found a way to get it done. And, that the game against Alabama, he came up big in that one. In the last 2 minutes of the game, taking the ball down and driving it down for a field goal. But he just had something about him that, he managed the game really well, got the ball out of his hand very well. I think the guys really respected him because he was just a grassroots, bloody-nosed guy. He get his nose bloodied up a little bit and get back up and, buckle his chin strap back up, say, let's go. He couldn't intimidate the guy, and I think that's why they respected him.
Well, Coach, you mentioned Alabama, so let's go back there for a second. So October 28th, 2000, UCF at Alabama. There's 2:24 on the clock. We're down 38-37. Ball is at our own 21. What was the game plan at that point? What were you kind of telling Schneider about what to execute out there in the field?
Well, obviously, I think we may have had one timeout, and we only needed a field goal. So it wasn't just Schneider; it was the whole offense on the sideline as we took the field. About get out of bounds when you can, hold on to the football, get lined up, and execute the play that's sent in. Don't panic. We've got plenty of time, and all we need is a field goal. And that's exactly what they did. To a T. Tyson Henshaw came up big with some catches in that drive that converted big third down plays. It gave Borlegi a chance to hit that 39-yard field goal, I guess it was, with 6 seconds left. So it was just about keeping your poise, hold on to the football, preserve time when you get out of bounds, and get lined up. And that's exactly what they did.
So what were your thoughts when you saw the ball sailing through the uprights? Obviously, UCF been through so much. You'd been a part of the program for a long time at that point. You mentioned the 99 year and the Auburn game in 98. What emotions, what thoughts did you have when that ball sailed through the uprights?
I don't know. I've been involved with 2 Super Bowls on the winning side. I don't know that I've ever experienced a feeling like that of exuberance inside. We were all sitting there and praying and didn't even want to watch, to be honest with you, and just hoping the Lord was with us on the field goal. And just words today can't describe it. It was incredible. I don't know that I'll ever have another feeling like that, to go into a place as storied as Alabama is, Bear Bryant, what they've done, and to win the game the way we won it. Played 60 minutes. It took all 60 minutes, if you remember the kickoff after the field goal, to win the football game. And that's what you preach to the football players, is you've got to play the entire time that the game runs. And that's exactly what they did. So it was the most gratifying win I've ever been a part of, especially as a coach. So it's one that I'll always remember.
So the 2001, 2002 seasons were both good. Both ended slightly above 500, but both were marked by a couple more close losses to, at that point, what were considered bigger programs. In 01, we lost to Clemson, Syracuse, and Arkansas. 02 was Penn State. It was Marshall, Syracuse again. I know all those games are different, and each of them have different scenarios. Arizona State. Each have different scenarios. Each have different situations. But is there a common thing or two that you saw that was in the way, or that you guys just had to get past to get over the hump to take some of those games down the road there?
Well, football's not a tough game to figure out. It's about players. It's about getting the right players in your program. It's about athletes. It's about getting these right athletes to buy into what you are trying to accomplish. It's about chemistry. And it's not that we didn't have it. It's just that across the board, when you're talking about numbers of those kinds of athletes in a program, it wasn't at UCF at the time. Our starters matched up pretty darn well with most of the programs you just mentioned. It's just that you cannot play 60 minutes. You need to sub and come out. And then when guys get tired or dinged up or hurt, then we dropped off a little bit talent-wise. And that's what hurt us, to be able to sustain consistency throughout a 60-minute football game. As you look back to all those games, it makes it awfully difficult when you transition from one AA into 1A and then jump right into the fire playing those kinds of teams. I'm not going to say which basically one AA, because at the time you're talking about 2001, 2002, we had 4 years of recruiting 1A classes, but that's not a long time. And we're still in the Wayne Dench, and we're still playing in the Citrus Bowl. You're not in a big multi-million-dollar building and playing in Spectrum Stadium. So there was reasons why, but they eventually got over the hump and got the facilities they needed and created visibility in this country and developed this reputation of being one of the most competitive programs in the country. And I'm ecstatic about the progress of the program at UCF. I think it's fantastic.
Coach, the 2002 season, UCF we were independent for a few years, and then we joined the MAC. How important was it for UCF to join a conference finally?
Well, it gave us more bowl opportunities, if that makes sense. There were more, as an independent, you weren't tied to a whole lot of bowl games. You didn't have this, well, if you win 6 games, you go to a bowl game. So getting into a conference visibility-wise and developing rivalries, so to speak, was really important because we had none. We played anybody and everybody up to that point. The MAC, another historic conference, been around as long as any conference in the country, was a good match. And 2002 was a good year. Marshall was a really good football team with Leftwich, and then Toledo was a good football team. I think those are the 2 teams that we had lost to that year. But, joining a conference was critical for the success of the program at that time, obviously. And, they've since moved to a number of different conferences, but the conference affiliation was huge. So it did help quite a bit.
All right, let's talk about some of the guys you coached and recruited. So what I want to do, Coach, is you had such a group of guys and guys who had professional success on the next level and coaching and all other walks of life. But I want to run through a few guys that were kind of our favorites. And so I'll give you the name, and you just tell me what comes to your mind when you hear this person's name, okay?
Yep.
So the first one is Siah Burley.
Playmaker. Siah was from Mesa, Arizona. He actually recruited us. Sent his tape to us. A very assertive young man, quiet, worked very hard, tremendous confidence in his own ability to make plays, and it showed on the field. I love him to this day. He's a coach, been coaching since he finished playing in the Arena League, and one of my favorites.
So, Coach, you're probably the best person to ask this question to. So last week, Mike and I were trying to rank the top duos in UCF history. And so we actually put Dante and Siah at number 1. Are we crazy, or is there an argument to be made that they were the top duo at UCF?
I could give you a couple. Yes, I feel like they probably were, simply because of who they played against. David Rhodes, Darren Henshaw. Darren had a number of receivers when he was playing. Of course, we're talking about 1AA now. We're not talking about at the 1A level. But we always seemed to have a quarterback at whatever level we were playing and a couple of receivers that could play. But, yes, Dante and Siah would probably be the best quarterback-receiver duo that was at UCF back at my time. Trying to think. Snyder and Gabriel wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Snyder and Tyson Henshaw was good. I could go back to Darren Slack and Bernard Ford and Teddy Wilson, and there's about 10 receivers I could go through, be here for days talking about them and the things that they were able to accomplish in the system that we had. But yeah, I agree that it was Daunte and Sire.
Well, if you'd want one guy covering those receivers, it might have been Asante Samuel. So what do you think of when I say the name Asante Samuel?
Game winner. I still remember the Western Michigan game, and I mean I forget what the score was, 35, 32 or 33, and they're sitting on the 6-yard line going in the score with hardly any time left, and the quarterback tries to throw a fade. Now they had three receivers that were over 6'2", and this one was almost 6'4", and Asante had a way of reading things. He was very instinctive, and read the indicator, the arm coming off the ball, and the ball released and intercepted. The guy tried to back shoulder it, and Asante cut underneath it and picked it off to win the game. But he did that all the time. I mean, just a tremendous football player with great speed. At a Boyd Anderson High School down in Fort Lauderdale, and just had a great college career and obviously an incredible pro career. Great person. But he was a playmaking Jesse on defense. Did the same thing in the NFL, though.
Yeah. Coach, what about Brandon Marshall?
Brandon, he played at Lake Howell right up the road from UCF, and he was a single wing quarterback at Lake Howell. And a number of schools were recruiting him, and Florida was recruiting him as a safety. And it really came down between University of Florida and ourselves. And I convinced him that he's an NFL receiver type body. He just had to do a lot of work to get there. And, I only had Brandon. I had him as a redshirt, then he played his redshirt freshman year for me in 2003. And just an outstanding football player. Great upside. Unfortunately, I only had 1 year to work with him. But you can look at his career in the National Football League and see that he made the right decision coming to UCF and honing his skills going into, having an opportunity to be drafted by the Broncos in the 4th round, I believe, and had a tremendous career. And so great person. Always had a smile on his face. Always enjoyed being around Brendan.
Coach, one of my personal favorites, Alex Haynes.
Alex Haynes, Evans High School. You know what? He I don't think was given enough credit as a running back. Everybody says, well, you're a pass-happy football team, and if you go back and look at his stats, all he did was be productive. I mean, he's very strong, a powerful guy, had functional speed, incredibly strong football player, durable, and I think had a great college career. Those are the kind of guys we built this program around, though. Guys that just loved to play the game, that understood how to work hard to accomplish what they want on the field and got it done. So I know he's proud of what he accomplished at UCF, and so am I. So another great fellow. Loved him to death.
All right, we could go on forever. So last one here, Coach. Elton Patterson.
E.P. I think he went to Rickards up in Tallahassee. Another one that, when you watch him practice, you understood why he did what he did on Saturdays. He went full speed, great effort, smart, never busted his assignment, tremendous leader, off the field as a student and on the field as an athlete, and tremendously respected by his peers, guys on the team, and I would imagine the student community at UCF. Very, very productive football player. And he's a lot like Alex, the game meant a lot to them, and they played it that way. and he's built his football career. I guess he's an agent and a very successful one right now, representing pro athletes. So another one of my favorites. You've mentioned guys that I have tremendous respect for, because that's what this program's been built on. Those kind of guys that, poured their heart and soul into the thing to build it from just about nothing to where it's at this point. So he's another great one. But you could talk about a bunch of football players over 19-year history that I was there that kind of fit the same mold.
Coach, 2003 obviously was a tough season for us on the field, and then you had some things going on off the field. It was reported that you and AD Steve Orsini not necessarily aligned on all the things going on there at the end of the year. Can you clarify any of that situation for us there at the end?
It's things that I don't really want to speak about. Steve and John Hitt and those people that made the decisions based on what they thought. I mean, I remember the day that it happened and the conversation we had. They said that there was issues with discipline and whatever, and by today's standards, there was no discipline issues over there by most schools. I don't want to say anything that would. I just don't want to talk about that. Not that I don't want to talk about it. I don't think this is the right platform to talk about it with. They made a decision to go with a different direction. And, I left and ended up coaching in the National Football League at Arizona, and had a blast doing it. So they had the reasons. So I'll leave it at that.
So, Coach, you mentioned you went to the NFL, and you've been coaching still nonstop. How closely have you been following UCF since then?
Well, I'm only 6 miles down the road now. I'm not very far. I've been in the same house since 1999, except when we went out to Arizona for 4 years, when we kept the same house. So I follow it very close. I don't get out to the games. I would prefer to watch them on TV. I have a certain way to watch a game, and I cannot do it in a stadium setting, sitting in the stands, so to speak. That's something that would be unique to me. So I prefer to watch from the comfort of my living room and evaluate and analyze watching it in air conditioning, if that makes any sense. No, but I followed very close, and I am very, very proud of what George did there, and what Scott Frost built on, and then Scott Heupel's doing, and I know all three of those gentlemen very well, and outstanding men and outstanding coaches, and I think UCF has benefited from all three of them, obviously, and I look forward to seeing what Scott has, plans for this year, and I'm sure he'll find a way to get it done again. So it's I've actually got out to practice. I went out to spring practice a couple times, and just amazed at the athletes they've gotten. They've done a great job recruiting, and this is a destination for a lot of kids to come to right now, and that's the way it should be. That school has a lot to offer, as does Central Florida. So they've come a long way in a short period of time. When you look at the big picture of these national championship teams, the Nebraskas and the Michigans and the historic Notre Dames and all that have been playing football for 150 years. And UCF's been playing since 79. So it hasn't been all that long. Like you said, it's going on 40 years, and they've made great strides, and will continue to do so.
Well, Coach, this is timely. So this past week, news broke that presumed starting quarterback Darryl Mack would be out for a period of time with what appears to be a broken ankle. So as a coach, right, how do you deal with this kind of an unplanned situation? Obviously, I'm sure Josh Heupel had plans in place, but how do you deal with some news like this? What do you think's going on right now? What do you think Coach Heupel and his staff are doing to try to figure out who the next guy in line would be?
Well, I obviously it's a very disappointing. If it was disappointing information to get the news that Darryl had broke his ankle, and I think the comforting thing for Coach is his quarterback room is pretty talented. He's not void of, the Wimbush guy has proven that he's a player and fits this system better than the one they had at Notre Dame when he got beat out by Ian Book. I have not seen the Dillon kid from Hawaii, the Quadri Jones kid. We threw 7-on-7 against at Jones a number of times. He's very talented. This is back when he was a high school senior. But I really think that, Scott will have a plan, but he's got a couple guys that fit in there and do very, very well. I don't. The beginning of the schedule for the season is, I think they open up with a 1AA school early. Was it A&M?
Yeah, FAMU.
FAMU, and depending upon the severity of the break, Darryl Mack will be back. He's a competitor. I know he's got to be extremely disappointed in what took place. No one knows the events that caused the break, but I'm sure that he'll do everything possible to try and get the thing rehabbed and healed up and get back to give himself a chance to compete again. Obviously, he'll be coming in after, the other guys got the job, but he's also got games underneath his belt. He's a competitor, and I thought he did very well considering the circumstances he was thrown into last year with McKenzie getting injured the way he did. So we'll see what happens, but, Scott will have a plan. Disappointed, yeah, but he can't change the fact that Mac's out for however long. He's got to get the other guys ready, and he'll do that.
Coach, can I ask you a technical question? So the two quote unquote leaders in the clubhouse for that job appears to be Brandon Wimbush, but there is a lot of folks who are kind of curious about Dylan Gabriel, the freshman from Hawaii. But Dylan Gabriel's left-handed. Right. Does that change anything from a coaching standpoint? Does that make it harder for Josh Heupel and his staff to kind of figure that out when he's got a quarterback who's left-handed when the majority of his staff at that point is right-handed?
That's a funny question. It's a good question. I had, I think, two left-handers in my time at UCF, but I had a big lefty when I was with the Cardinals, Matt Leinart, and he was our first pick in 2006. And a lot of our movement stuff, our play action or sprint game or nakeds or we're all going to his throwing hand side, which means you have to condition yourself to flip plays because now it's a left-handed quarterback. I don't think it's that critical at UCF and what they do schematically. They're a power read, zone read football team. I mean, 90% of the time when the quarterback catches that ball, it's going in the belly of that running back. Now, you don't know what's going to happen. He's reading somebody. So the game's a little bit different, but it did in my system. I'm not so sure that it makes a big difference in Josh Heupel's offense.
Oh, good to know. I appreciate the answer there, Coach. So, all right. So you've been very gracious with your time, so we appreciate that. So we'll get you out of here on this. We end every interview. We ask our subject here 10 random fire questions. So these can be questions about food, about music, about movies, about sports, about life. So we ask 10 random questions. Are you prepared, Coach, for our 10 random rapid fire questions?
Do I have to answer rapidly?
No, you certainly take your time. I'll start you off with an easy one. This is probably pretty easy, I think.
You can send out 10, but I may slow it down.
All right. So here's the first one for me. You have 2 Super Bowl rings, correct?
Yes.
Where are they today? Where do you have your rings?
Where are the rings?
Yes.
In the safe.
When's the last time you actually wore either of those rings?
Today.
Okay. Can you share why you wore the rings today?
It happened to be out because I had it out this weekend at a function.
Okay.
I didn't put it away.
Great.
Coach, we've talked to a bunch, and it's pretty obvious. You were known for always being in the weight room and your workouts. Did you have any player on your team that could beat you in an arm wrestling contest? And if so, who was it?
Dante.
Oh, okay.
Is Dante the strongest guy you had, you think?
He more than likely was, and I would have to get into all my controlling of his weightlifting because he would have gotten way too big. But he did some incredible things strength-wise that normal people just don't do. But you trying to beat Dante in anything, it could be checkers. It was almost impossible. You couldn't beat him in basketball. Weightlifting. When he set his mind to something, it got done. He was a freshman, and I'm deviating. And he was standing next to me. He goes, and we have full pads. He goes, I can do a backflip. He's got his helmet on the whole thing. I said, well, don't try it. So I'm watching somebody else do something. And I turn a little bit, and his feet are up in the air, and he's halfway through the flip, and he sticks it. He just stood there and jumped and flipped it in the air. I took him off of power cleans. And my office was near the weight room in the old Wayne bench. And I heard all this noise and weight slamming and whatnot. And I go back, he's sitting in a chair smiling, and the team's going crazy. He cleaned 315 without warming up. In the whole off season, I said, I don't want you cleaning anything. So that's who Dante was. He was unique. So I couldn't beat him in arm wrestling, no. I did like weightlifting, though.
Coach, what's your favorite TV show of all time?
My favorite TV show? Wow. I don't know that I have one. I spent so much time watching football.
That's what I was curious. Did you ever have time for TVs, movies? Were you able to kind of keep up with sort of the current trends while you were sort of knee-deep in coaching?
Well, I've been coaching, I guess, now for 36 years and played for almost not as many, but no, I didn't have a whole lot of time to ever get involved with a show. When I was little, I liked Star Trek in the 60s.
Okay.
Coach, besides football, what's your next favorite sport?
Basketball.
Did you have any superstitions when you were coaching? Did you wear a lucky pair of socks, or did you have to walk a certain way in the field? Any superstitions when you were on the field?
No.
Getting back to the weight training, Coach, how much can you bench press today?
Well, there are circumstances why I don't bench anymore. I've torn up both shoulders, and so I don't handle nearly what I could back then. I mean, back then I think that I enjoyed weightlifting almost as much as I enjoyed coaching. I mean, I was in the weight room at 4 o'clock every morning, Monday through Friday, in the weight room at UCF. My lifting partner used to work he was a robotics engineer at Cape Canaveral. So he had to drive. So he had to be done by 6 to get to the Cape. And we did that for, 11 years, 10 years. So we got really, he was a competitive bodybuilder, amateur, but still a bodybuilder. So we spent a lot of time in the weight room, training. It was a lot of fun, but you pay the price over a period of time now. The body's not meant to hold up underneath that constant training. And back in the day, you squatted the weight any way you could, or you benched it any way you could, or pressed it. It wasn't so much technique as about just getting the weight. And like I said, the body over years kind of breaks down. So it's I still train, but it's Bowflex and Total Gym and dumbbells, and I'm down. I guess my weight's about 30 pounds lighter than it was when I was coaching at UCF.
What was your record bench press back then when you were at your peak?
I think I was only about 385, 390, but my squat was 5.5.
Yikes!
Something. But again, you get good at what you practice. And we did plenty of that. So it was a lot of fun.
So, Coach, I know your time in football, both playing and coaching, you got to go to a lot of different stadiums. You're obviously in a lot of different cities, was visiting and playing. What's your favorite stadium that you've ever been in?
Wow. Well, I can remember the first time coaching at Florida State. We went to LSU on a Saturday night, and we were playing for the Orange Bowl. It was 1982, a crazy atmosphere. But, you talk about SEC stadiums. We talked about Auburn. We talked about Alabama. Penn State was amazing. We opened up against Clemson in 2001. I've been very blessed to be in some incredible venues on the road. Georgia, another one. I mean, it's, the Penn States, the Purdue's, they all rank. I mean, they all have a place in my heart. Came out a loser, all but one. No, we beat LSU in 80. That was 83. We beat them out there. We lost in 82. So it's, there's a number of stadiums and venues that I can remember, but the first one that I really truly remember is my first year coaching when I was at FSU. We were playing in Baton Rouge late in the season. I think we were both 9-1. So,
Coach, if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Oh, I don't know. Superpower.
Vic Penn said he wanted to be invisible.
Invisible?
Yeah, that was Vic Penn.
Yeah, I don't. That question's. I don't know. Superpowers. I don't know.
All right, Coach, can you do me one honor? So, can you think of your favorite play of all time? Can you give me the play call? Can you actually say the what you would say in the huddle, or what you would say to the quarterback?
Oh, let's see. How many plays have I called in my life? I don't. Let's see. I can give you a couple. I can't give you stuff from UCF back in the day. I have a couple, but let's see. I'll give you one. Hurry to double right, spear, scat right, run at 894, H snap, M.
And now, can you translate that for me and tell me what you just called?
It was a play from the Cardinals. It was a shift and a motion with a protection, and we were 3-digit in the tag in those days. So 8 was a run at 8 was a bang, skinny post. 9 was a seam. 4 was a dig at 18, and snap was a high hitch at 7. And M route was a swing by the back. So we were a big shift motion team back with Arizona, and that was one of Kurt Warner's favorite plays. That's why I remember it.
Yeah, I'm always amazed by the whole terminology that goes into all these plays. I have one more.
Yeah, I was on the sideline. The coordinator in 2005 and half of 2006 would call the play to me, and then I would have to hit the button and relay it to Kurt. So I would have to hear it and then repeat it to him. So it was kind of interesting. It wasn't like I was sitting there looking at a call sheet and reading it off. It came through me to him. So we had an extra step in that process. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No problem. That makes it even more crazy. I mean, you miss one number and the whole play is screwed up, right?
Oh, without a doubt.
That's the last question I have. What's your favorite place to go on vacation?
Keys.
You're a big fisherman?
I am not. I love the laid back lifestyle, and believe it or not, I have a very, very close friend I played football with that played for the Steelers for 12 years that has a place on Isla Morada, and go down there and vacation and visit with him and his wife, and Lee and myself enjoy going down there. So I'm not a big guy that likes to go to Europe and different spots all over the world. I prefer to stay in this country. So, and the Keys is only 6 hours away.
Well, Coach,
close.
One place you might be
5
going,
hours.
this fall, hopefully, is Brevard, North Carolina. I know your son Garrett's now in coaching up there. How cool is it that now your son's kind of getting into the family business, quote unquote?
I am so very proud of him. He's first of all, as a quarterback, he had incredible talent. He still could be playing right now. He has one more year left of eligibility, but he decided last year that he wanted to get into coaching. And I have opportunities every day to talk with him about scheme. And ironically, his head coach was the quality control guy for Arizona. He is running verbatim the offense I ran at Arizona. The play I just quoted you, Garrett could call the same play to you right now. So he knows that system very well. I'm proud of the way he studies. He'll be a lot better coach than I am. He's starting earlier, and he knows the game. He really does. So I'm very, very proud of his first year. It's not easy. Coaching is a lot more difficult than playing. The hours are perpetual. Once the season begins, you're in at 6 o'clock in the morning and you're home at midnight. I mean, it just goes for forever, and it's not for everybody. And so he did remarkably well this past year, and looking forward to this upcoming season and seeing where he eventually ends up. And so looking forward to he's coming home tomorrow, as a matter of fact, for 2 weeks before the season starts. So I'm looking forward to fellowshipping with him before the grind hits for him.
For sure.
So it's pretty cool, though.
Well, hopefully one day he gets to follow in your footsteps and wear black and gold on the sideline again. And I know the UCF fans will always remember the name fondly, Coach. And look, we can't thank you enough for your time tonight. So gracious and generous to answer our questions and put up with our nonsense. And again, for those who may not remember Coach Kruczek, one of the founding fathers of the UCF football program. And Coach, we can't thank you enough for all you did for UCF and for us as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Adam. It was my pleasure being on. It's an honor to be sure. So you guys have a great evening.
Okay, sons of UCF, both of you, you are the father.
All right, Mike, let's get into Cow of the Week. Before we do, don't think we forgot about Manscaped, Mike. Father's Day just passed. You may have forgotten to get a gift because that's what you do, but don't worry. Manscaped has you covered. You can still grab any of their precision tools, Mike, including their Performance 4.0 package. There's a lot of stuff in there, including the Lawnmower 4.0. This is no dad joke, my friends. You still have time to make things right if you've angered the man in your life, maybe your husband, maybe a gag gift for a buddy of yours, whatever. Manscaped.com, 20% off if you go to that site, enter in promo code Sons of UCF. If you want a lawnmower 4.0, they got you. You want a weed whacker, they got you there. You want ball deodorant, you want ball toner, you want performance boxer briefs. Mike, those boxer briefs are super comfortable, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I wish I'd be able to wear them again, but my wife steals them every time they come out of the dryer here. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, Manscaped is awesome.
This is a true story. I'm sorry. Yeah, a true story. I forgot to say this one. So they sent us a T-shirt too. It's actually a really comfortable T-shirt. It fits nice, really comfortable. And so I was wearing it around the house the other day, and we were not planning on going anywhere. We'd said we'd already been out for the day, so we're like, all right, we're done. And my little guy comes in. He's like, hey, can we go? There's a thing at the park. All my friends are there. Can we go? Please, 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 please. I was like, I don't know. If you want to go, we can go. So we decided to go. It's like a little music festival. There's some food trucks. There's beer there, whatever. So I'm like, fine, let's just go. I jump in the car. I head out there. Totally forgot I had my Manscaped shirt on, right? So if you don't know the Manscaped shirt, it says Manscaped, something like take care of your balls, or it's good for your balls, or your balls will thank you, something like that, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm talking to everybody, having a good time with like my son's little kindergarten friends and all these people, right? And I looked down at my shirt. I'm like, oh, crap, I forgot I had the Manscaped shirt on. I was like, oh, way to go, genius. I'm like, yeah, sorry about that. So I go to get a beer. Why not? And I come back, and the guy, one of my son's friends, her dad is sitting there. He looks at me and he goes, you got the 4.0? And I was like, I'm sorry? And he's like, you got the 4.0? And I'm like, I think he's thinking, I'm thinking cars. I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean 4.0? And he like nods at my shirt. And I was like, oh, he's like, it's a life changer, isn't it? I was like, actually, you know what? It really is a life changer. He was like, I've had mine for a few years. I had to, convince the wife and an upgrade. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And he's like, oh, when'd you get yours? I'm like, actually, kind of a sponsor of the show. He's like, oh, you do a show? And so that got a whole conversation. So this guy legit saw my shirt and wants to talk ball trimmers with me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Every time I wear that shirt, my daughters say, you can't wear that shirt. It's inappropriate.
Yeah, I get that too.
Go change. And I've walked them to school with that shirt on a few times.
Father of the year. Anyway, go to manscaped.com. Promo code Sons of UCF. You can get 20% off. Grab a shirt, by the way. They're super fantastic. They're comfy. Your friends will love them. Good party conversation starters. I was a hit of that little party there for a hot minute there. So get in there. Manscaped.com. Promo code Sons of UCF. 20% will come right off your bill. Mike, if you don't do that, you might be a cow of the week, similar to these people that we're going to talk about now. Why don't you start off? Who do you want to call out this week?
All right. This guy is a friend of the show.
Okay. All right. I love when we start off with
way
this.
Back from day one of this Sons of UCF podcast.
That's very few people. Very few people day one.
He was one of the first people to ever believe in us. Our first ever sponsor of the show.
Oh, I thought we were going someplace else. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Mr. Drew Bellani. Good guy, very good guy.
I like
Drew
a lot.
Been on the show with us before.
Just texted him recently. Drew and I were having some conversations about some future stuff. So I always love Drew. He's a good hardcore Knight fan. Always been a good supporter of ours. Like, why? That's right. Why would Drew be involved in Cow of the Week? This can't be right.
Drew's a great guy. Actually, Drew sat with me during the Gasparilla Bowl when we beat Florida.
Good. Okay.
I know him. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Like I said, also a big Yankee fan like myself. Even more reason to like him, right? But Drew has got to be the most negative person, especially when it comes to the Yankees, that I've ever met in my life.
Oh.
The Yankees are in the middle of a season right now where they've won 50 games. They've lost 17. This is the best start they've had since the 98 team, which was a record-setting team, won 114 games in the regular season, went on to win the World Series. This team is matching that team, win for win, basically, up to this point of the season. And it doesn't matter if they're on a 9-game winning streak. They've won 12 in a row. They've just swept the second-place team in the division. As soon as they lose one game, this guy, it's like the sky is falling. Yesterday they lost a game to the Blue Jays. And the Yankees had just come off a sweep of Tampa. They won the first 2 games against the Blue Jays, beat them up soundly. And they blew a game yesterday. They were winning 8-3. They ended up losing like 10-8 or something like that, 9-8. And Drew can't wait to get onto Twitter and start complaining about the team and how championship teams don't lose games like this. Let me go look up some of his tweets. Even today,
we're getting
just
receipts.
33 minutes ago from now. Are Yanks going to blow 2 games in a row that they were in command? by the way, in tonight's game, they were up 2-0. If you want to call that in command. That happens all the time. But they ended up winning that game. You know, they won tonight's game. They're playing fantastic baseball. And just anytime they lose one game, this is 162 games, Drew. Every time they lose one, he wants to fire Aaron Boone. He wants to get rid of everybody. He has no faith in this team come playoff time. So when the Yankees do go all the way this year, I don't know if he's allowed to celebrate. I don't know if he can take part in this because he's been such a downer the last few years. Now, he's been like this the last few years about the Yankees, and he's turned out to be right. But every season is its own season. Mm-hmm. And this year seems to be a lot different. They said they've got everything going right now. They're hitting. The pitching has been fantastic. The starting pitching has been great. And yet it's still not enough for this guy to be happy. They're double-digit lead on the rest of the division. Still not enough for him. He's still nervous every night. You know, they're going to lose a couple games here and there, Drew. They're going to blow a game here and there. Happens to every team. They're going to be just fine. Right now, as we speak, they are 11.5 games up on Toronto, who's in second place, 13.5 up on Boston, 14 up on Tampa Bay. Just a fantastic year. Enjoy it, Drew. Sit back, relax, enjoy it. They're going to lose. Right now, they have 17 losses. They're going to lose another 30 games this year, and it'll still be a great season. So just start relaxing. You have to get him on the phone with George and have George calm this guy down. And is this going to be enough for him to start?
Has George ever calmed anybody down? Is that a sentence that's been said? Let's bring in George O'Leary to calm this down. Has that ever been said?
I feel like George, though, when it comes to the Yankees, he's got a lot of experience. He goes back to the 50s, Mickey Mantle and all that. He's seen it all. Mm-hmm. He's not a guy to overreact for one baseball game that they blew an 8-3 lead. There's no way George – he knows better. And the next day is all that matters, and the next day was tonight, and they came back and they answered the bell. They even blew a 2-run lead in that one, still won the game. Mm. So, Drew, the Yankees in the last 10 games, 9-1. Right? They're the best team in baseball. Just relax and enjoy it for a few weeks, a month, until once we get to the playoffs, and if they blow a game in the playoffs, all right, fine, you can lose your stuff then. But right now, there's no catching them. Have fun with it.
First off, I want to say, Drew, I still love you, buddy. You're fantastic. The poor choice, I got to get out there to that new spot he opened up. It's a pretty cool bar, Mike. I also love how you autocorrected to control your stuff, which was fantastic. It's a nice autocorrect in the moment. Definitely appreciate that. I've seen Drew on Twitter. He's very passionate about his Yankees. He definitely seems to live and die off every game and every pitch, and that's what you want a sports fan, Mike. That's what you want a sports fan and a friend. So, you got to love the passion.
But Drew is the same age as me, right around the same age. Mm-hmm. It's not like the Yankees have been a tortured franchise for our whole lives where they've never won anything. They've always choked it away. They've won 5 World Series in our lifetime. That's enough for a lot of people. They go their whole lives never seeing their team win one. So it's not like he's a Cubs fan growing up in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. And they're suffering for 80, 90, 100 years. He's a Yankees fan. You should learn how to deal with success a little bit better.
Okay. All right. Well, I will stay clear of this. I am not a Yankees fan. I don't pretend to follow the Yankees or anything that is baseball related. So I will steer clear. Mike, what I do follow of late, probably with a sport that's replaced my baseball fandom, and this is where I'm going for Cow of the Week, Mike. I'm going to give my Cow of the Week to FIFA. Are you familiar with FIFA, Mike? Do you know what FIFA is?
Yeah, the soccer guy.
The soccer organization. Yeah, absolutely. And FIFA gets my Cow of the Week because you know what it is, Mike? You know what year this is?
2022.
It is. It's a World Cup year. It's a year where they're going to play the World Cup, Mike. It's a World Cup year. Every 4 years that thing comes around. It's a World Cup year. And historically, the World Cup has been played sometime in the summer months, June, July, which means as we're sitting here now and the sports calendar is pretty empty, not a lot going on, I could be sitting here talking or thinking about upcoming World Cup matches. Will the USA play well? What's going to happen? Is Pulisic going to kind of come through finally? What are we going to do here, Mike? But you know what? I'm not doing that. You know why? Because FIFA put the goddamn World Cup in November. The actual USA-England match is on the same day as the Cows Black Friday game. So I've got to find a way to watch both of those two things somehow on that same day. I don't know how I'm going to pull that off yet. I have to tape one. I'm not really sure yet. I'm like, but soccer, it should be played right in the summer. Right now, they've robbed me of my World Cup experience. There's nothing else on TV sporting-wise. I'm not really watching the USFL. Golf's kind of boring me at this point. I don't watch baseball. This is my time for World Cup soccer. It's the summer. I need it right now. I don't need it in the smack dab of the NFL and college football season. So FIFA has robbed me of my something to do for the next 8 weeks. And for that, Mike, they get my cow of the week.
Yeah, because they had to have it in Qatar, right?
Qatar. I don't know how you pronounce it. Yes,
they had to have it.
Had to have it there.
It's so stupid. And if you think Americans didn't care about soccer before, put the World Cup on during NFL season and see how much we really don't care about.
Yeah,
it.
I know. Yeah,
I'm not rearranging my schedule to watch a World Cup game. Now, if it was on now, like it has been in other years, in June and July, you're right. There's nothing else going on. I'd skip out of work, for a couple hours to go watch the game. I've done it before where I've had early morning parties to watch an Ecuador game or a USA game.
Yep.
But to have it later in the year in November, I understand that it's super hot over there where they're doing it now. So people would be dying if they were playing the games there. But did they really have to schedule it at that site? No.
Money.
Go ahead.
Money. No, money's the answer. FIFA is like the most corrupt organization on like FIFA and the NCAA should have a word with each other because they're literally probably the two worst like sporting organizations that are out there.
Yeah. So I didn't. Well, has it first of all, has it been decided that we're still playing on Black Friday? I haven't seen that announced.
It's a fair point. I don't know. That's a fair point. I don't know if that's true or not. I feel like we think it is. I feel like the challenge is the timing though, because I think that the Seminoles and Gators are playing on that. So I guess there is a possibility that there could be a Saturday game. I think you might be right.
Could be a Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to figure that part out too, because that's another trip I'm trying to plan. My daughter's birthday is the 28th, and I'm trying to figure out a way because I'm going to take her to Busch Gardens. We haven't done Busch Gardens yet. She's getting tall enough now where they can both ride all the roller coasters. I want to figure it out. Go to the game one day, go to Busch Gardens the other, but they got to tell me what day that game is. I'd rather not wait till 2 weeks before kickoff to find out. So get that figured out. And the World Cup, it's that late in November? I thought it'd be early November. But it's all the way at the end. It's going into December, this tournament?
Yeah, yes, sir, my friend. The USA group match with England, which, again, it's a big one, right? I mean, USA, England, 1776, here we come. That's on Black Friday. Already scheduled.
Wow.
Yeah. I think the first match USA plays is on the 22nd. You're going to ask me a question I don't know off the top of my head, aren't you? USA Soccer Group. Let's see if I can pull this up quickly. All right, I got it. Let's see here. Yeah, you would think. Okay, here we go. Googling works. Group B, we've got England, Iran, and I believe Wales was the team that came out of the playoffs. So England, Iran, and Wales.
All right, so you tell me there's a game scheduled for the 26th. Is there a game on the 19th? That's the day we played Navy.
I don't believe so. Hold on. I have 21st, USA at Wales. That is a 2 p.m. Eastern time first kick. Friday, November 25th versus England, 2 p.m. first kick. Tuesday, the 29th versus Iran, 2 p.m. first kick.
All right, and that is a good chance, maybe knockout round, same day as American Athletic Conference Championship.
Saturday, December 3rd, round of 16. Winner of Group A versus runner-up of Group B, or Sunday, December 4th, winner of Group B versus runner-up of Group A. So correct, we could get to either of those matches, either the 3rd or the 4th.
Yikes. That's not good. That is not good. If you want to keep interest in the American fans, you can't have it during the NFL season and college football season. Yeah. It's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, so I need that Black Friday Cows game to be a night game then, because if this is true, a 2 p.m. kick for USA England, then I can get that thing in. That's over by like 4:30, 5 o'clock. I can be ready for a Cows game by then. I can swing that. I don't need a noon kick though, because then no, I don't need a noon kick.
Well, is that 2 p.m. our time?
It says 2 p.m. Eastern on this thing I'm looking at right here. It says Eastern.
So that's a night game over there.
Would assume so.
It's gotta be.
Yeah.
I don't know how many hours ahead of us they are, but That's a late kick over there.
$1 million.
And then they just announced the sites for the 2026
They did.
games.
Yeah. 2026. Orlando shut out.
Atlanta
somehow.
A couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Atlanta. Miami, though, is in, so you've got an option down there. And beautiful Hard Rock Stadium.
That's right. Yeah, you heard my review of Camping World Stadium a few weeks ago for the Paul McCartney concert.
I did.
I am not surprised that Orlando missed out on that. The Hard Rock Stadium down here is way better venue than that place. So that'd be cool. I might go check out one of those games. The ticket's got to be really expensive for one of these games.
Hold on. Do you think the FIFA people went to the Paul McCartney concert and were like, this place is a fiasco, get us out of here? Do you think that's what happened?
No, but I'm sure they've had evaluation.
Don't rule it out.
Evaluated all the sites, I'm sure, at some point.
Yeah, don't rule it out.
What else has Camping World Stadium been hosting besides bowl games and concerts?
Yeah, don't rule it out. I mean, stick to your guns. Yeah, good sites were announced, though. Obviously, Miami, Atlanta. I think Dallas got one. I think there's a bunch in New York, New Jersey, West Coast. I think I think LA got some Vancouver, some Mexico. 2026. It'll be a fun time.
Yeah, I think each site maybe get 3 games.
Yeah,
something like that. They each host a pool, maybe.
That's a bucket list for me. I'd love to see a USA World Cup game in America. Right, this is going to be once in a lifetime situation. So, this would be a sporting bucket list item for me.
That ticket price is going to be outrageous.
Yeah.
Right. It's one thing if you want to go see like Ghana and Ivory Coast, right? That you may be able to sneak your way into that, and that's still probably not going to be that cheap of a ticket. But to see the US
they sell them out for Ghana, Ivory Coast, do they?
I mean, every game sells out, right? Basically, everybody wants to say they went to a World Cup game, and every game will be full. But the United States games, that's going to be a pretty sizable ticket price. And where are they going to put the United States? Are they going to be in New York? Are they going to be in Atlanta? Are they going to be on the West Coast somewhere? That'd be interesting to see, too.
Last time Ghana and Ivory Coast played, June 12th, 2021, a 0-0 tie. It was a draw, Mike. Before that, Ghana won a 2015 matchup. Ivory Coast won the second, and then looks like Ivory Coast won on PKs in the third match. So just a little Ghana Ivory Coast history.
Ghana kicked our ass a couple years ago.
That's fair. We were Ghana after that. One other? Do you have a bucket list item, by the way? I mean, who's listening at this point anyway? Do you have a sports bucket list? Is there something you want to see? I think we've probably done this on the show before at some point.
One place I've never been that I've always wanted to go is Wrigley Field.
Okay.
I'd like to do that. I've done Fenway. I've done the old Yankee Stadium. Wrigley is the one baseball that I've never been to that I'd like to do. Super Bowl obviously would be cool.
Would you go to a Masters?
Would I go? I would go. I don't think I'd ever have the chance to go. That's a very exclusive ticket to get.
So I signed up. I have a buddy who works at the PGA Tour. I signed up to be in the lottery, and if you get selected, then you can buy tickets. So I'm in the lottery. If I get selected, I'll let you know. And if you're available, you can make the trek to Augusta with me.
That'd be cool. You might win. I know somebody that's won like the practice round tickets.
Yeah.
And you go up there for a Wednesday or something or Tuesday.
Yeah. Par 3. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that place is supposed to be magical. That'd be cool. I'm not as big of a golf fan, so it's not like I wouldn't put it in my top 5. You know, the Kentucky Derby would be cool, but that seems like such a pain in the ass, like logistically getting in and out of that place. How many people go to that thing? How rich do you have to be to have transportation or a place to stay in and out?
Yeah.
But it seems like a fun time while you're there.
Well, I mean, you'd have to get a really fancy Sons of UCF hat at that point, right? Because you're going to need something really, you got to dress it up.
Yeah. I'd love to go to a big, I don't even know who the fighter would be now, but it's like a Tyson type fight, a big heavyweight championship fight like that in Vegas. That would be cool. Yeah, those are probably the big ones. I've been to a World Series. I've been to a couple World Series games. I've been to NFL playoff games. I've been to NHL playoff games. But, so those are the other ones that are the big ones.
Yeah, I think I'd like to check out a Masters. Here, the other one I've always wanted to go to, I've never been, and I missed the window because we're not good anymore. I've always wanted to see a night match with an American player at the U.S. Open tennis. And right there in New York, right there by Old Shea Stadium. Like back in the day, it was like Agassi and Sampras and Roddick and all those guys. I would have loved to have seen a night match on one of those on Arthur Ashe Stadium for some reason. That still is a bucket list for me.
All right, that's a good one.
That's all I got.
No, that's a good one.
Hey.
Have you been to NBA Finals game before?
I have never been to an NBA Finals game.
I think that's high on your list. Yeah, the Heat go to the finals.
If the Heat make it to a final, and they've obviously been in more than a few. I would like to at some point check that out for sure. Yeah. It's tough though for games where like my team is in it and they're like it's a really important game. I'd almost rather not be there. You know what I mean? Because I need to like focus in. I need to be able to see what's happening. I think I'd miss like the ability, to like focus as much. But then afterwards, if we win, I would have loved to have been like, hey, I was there. Just this past weekend was the Ray Allen shot anniversary from the 2013 NBA Finals. Right, I was losing my mind at my house. I'm glad I was at home, but now knowing what happened, I would have loved to have been there to say, hey, I was at the game where Ray Allen hit the shot and tell him took the ropes back. Right, that would have been fantastic. So I don't know if I want to be someplace with a really high stress game that my team's playing. That might be tough.
Yeah, I have done it. I mean, the Peach Bowl it was great. But I've been on the losing end of some of those too. I mentioned the World Series. I went to Game 1, 1996 against the Braves, and they lost 12-1. I went.
See, Drew was right. Drew was right this whole time.
Actually, I flew up there the day they beat the Orioles in Game 5 ALCS. My cousin, who's a cop up there, says, I can get you a ticket to any one of the World Series games. Let me know which one you want, and I'll make it happen. So I picked Game 1. The home games are Game 1, 2, 6, or 7. You don't know if there's going to be a 6 or 7, but I didn't want to take that chance. And if I have a choice of Game 1 or Game 2, I'm taking Game 1. It was the first time the Yankees were back in the World Series since 1981, so it was a really big deal. The atmosphere heading into the game was incredible, and then they just got their asses kicked. Actually, the game had gotten rained out. I had to change my flight. I was supposed to fly back Sunday, and I had to stay an extra day because the game got rained out. And I went to that one. I went to Game 4 down here against the Marlins, the Alex Gonzalez home run game, so the Yankees lost that one. So basically, I'm not allowed to go to the Yankees World Series games anymore. But I was also at Game 1, 97 Marlins-Indians. I was rooting for the Marlins in that one. I've been at 3 World Series games.
So maybe Drew has it right, Mikey. You are the problem after all. But, hey, look, we appreciate you guys hanging in. This is a fun one. I know not a lot going on. Hopefully somehow Mike and I managed to find a couple hours to take your mind off of anything that's going on and anything that's happening. We were definitely glad to be a part of it. And make sure you follow us on all the things you follow things on. Sons of UCF, YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. Twitter, Instagram. Do all that stuff first. So Thursday, live show. Mike, we'll be back. I don't know who we'll have on. We had some legends on last week. I don't know what we have in store this week. You never know. So, but check us out Thursday, 8 p.m. Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And then keep your eye on our Twitter account. We may do some more fun stuff with the lists. So don't lose sight of that.
There's going to be a lot of lists this summer. Get ready for them. They have lists of lists. What is the top 5 list we have? I don't know. We'll figure it all out. Just keep staying tuned to the YouTube channel. Stay tuned here to the feed. Subscribe, rate, review, unsubscribe, resubscribe, re-rate, re-review, do all that stuff. And we'll keep you guys busy. And we only have, I think now,
73. Sam Jackson number of days.
Yeah. 10 weeks and 3 days to kick off. And we're right back to where we want to be.
That's crazy. Here we go. We got our schedule synced up for game. We got a lot of work. We got a lot of stuff to do, everybody. You all have a great week. Mike and I got a lot of work to do here. We'll see you Thursday. Go ahead.
Charge on.